Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Cindy Thompson.
I'm Monica Haidt.
I'm Chelsea Duff, and today we have two very special guests with us. Allison, Joe, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah.
Hey, that's Joe. And I'm Allison of the podcast Queer Cinema Catchup, where we talk about movies, TV, and miscellaneous topics through a queer lens. And we're really excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
We're glad to have
excited
you.
to have you.
Seriously.
We've joined you guys on your podcast, and when you reached out to us this most recent time to talk about Thelma, the queer horror movie, for any confusion, that we covered on your guys' podcast, you proposed that movie or the movie that we're doing today, and we said, actually, that one's on our list for Pride this year. Why don't you guys come over here and join us, and we'll do both. So
Which is amazing.
Very excited about that.
Los dos.
Yeah,
and
if you don't know what movie that is, the movie that we're doing today is 1983's The Hunger, which the IMDb logline reads, "A love triangle develops between a vampire, her cellist companion, and a gerontologist," which is perhaps the least sexy way to describe this movie, actually, despite the words love triangle, which doesn't really materialize
incorrect.
meaningfully.
I would say that it's incorrect. I feel it'd say it was not a love triangle in a lot of ways because things seem to
definitely
be
not.
separated.
It's like one relationship and then another relationship.
And there's zero crossover.
And a coffin.
That was
I mean, they talk to each other, so
that's so true. Oh my
that's
god,
cheating.
Okay,
you can't talk to anyone hot when you're in a relationship, in case you didn't know.
Even if it's a doctor.
So actually, I'm
really
gonna exit the chat right now because all of y'all are too good looking and I'm engaged. So goodbye.
Oh my god,
Monica's spoken for a woman.
But no, the love triangle, that word choice is interesting, and I wonder if that biased my perspective going in, or if I just confuse it with Only Lovers Left Alive, which is, I think, a throuple vampire movie, because I was expecting a lot more throuple going in.
Mm-hmm. I did think they were all gonna have sex with each other, and that did not happen. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
That's what I wanted from this movie.
I got what I needed out of it, though.
I got everything that I wanted and more.
I would have liked David Bowie, Susan Sarandon, and the beautiful French main woman, Catherine
Deneuve.
Yes. I would have maybe liked a sex scene with all of them together.
Sure. But Did you know that apparently Susan Sarandon and David Bowie had an affair on set? So does that add anything to your experience?
Yes, it does.
Good.
Wow.
Okay, great.
Wow. You said affair. Is that just to make it sound sexy, or were they in other relationships at the time?
The affair is the word that I saw on IMDb trivia, which is why I use that word. But wasn't he with Iman? What's her face?
No!
Like that whole time? Or not until way later.
Okay, yeah. I was like, how dare you? That's
Thank
their
God.
one true love.
Well, I was like, I don't know, maybe they're open.
Susan Sarandon and Chris Sarandon's marriage ended in 1979. So she's cleared.
So maybe it was a love affair just in the traditional love affair sense, not in the marital affair sense.
Thank God. Whew. Jesus Christ, it was getting too real there for a second. But anyway, before we go totally into it, I just want to say I'm so excited that y'all are here on our turf because it's been so fun collaborating with y'all both times. I just want to shout out the other episodes so you guys can go over to Queer Cinema Catchup. Whoa, did I say your name of your podcast right? Oh my God.
You did. You said it beautifully.
Okay, I got scared. I was like, I'm not reading from a script. But yeah, we did Thelma 2017. Don't get confused.
Yeah, thank you for saying your name on it.
There's a lot of Thelmas out there.
And honestly, like, what did we do the first time we collabed? I can't
The
remember
Others.
right now.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
Oh, it's because I watched it so early in the morning. Wow.
It's
I
an
watched
early
it
morning movie.
I
It
watched
is
it
kind
at
of an
6
early morning
a.m.
movie.
I watched it at
Yeah.
6 a.m. And that was the
Mhm.
first time I had ever seen it. And I had preserved the twist for over 20 years. That is making me sound old. That's not how old that movie is. Oh my God, is it?
I think
No,
it
it's
is.
way older than
It's
that.
over 20 years.
It's older than
Oh,
that.
fuck, kill me. All right, bye. Anyway. But either way, both times we've collabed. It's so fun, and now I'm just excited to have you on our turf. You're playing by our rules now, and it's not nearly as organized as your rules. So get ready for chaos, bitch.
The video editing, not so bounce around. You get to see all of us, and that can be fun too.
Yeah, I don't have for any queer cinema catch-up fans coming over here to watch. You will not see editing prowess over here. As far as
You
video
get what you
editing goes,
get.
you will
We
see
have
us
a
the whole
different
time.
cinematography style that we work within, so
I
you get
think
to have both by being fans of both.
Yeah.
I think our community will love your community, so I see no
Oh my God,
problem with them
That was beautiful.
watching your
stop,
content.
you
Our community is
guys.
shaking hands with
We're
love.
so
Exactly.
excited to merge communities on
Oh my
this, the
God.
beginning of Pride.
Yes.
It's all about community.
Exactly.
Chelsea, also, what
I know,
theme
I
is
skipped right
it?
over.
You skipped over our beautiful theme month. This is your baby.
I know. I was like, they know. But just in case anybody doesn't, you guys know, if you're a fan of Spooky Tuesday, you know that every year we do a Pride lineup where it has to be, I mean, we always make movies gay, and sometimes gay movies are year round, but Pride has to be explicitly gay in some way. Although
Mhm.
I would say this year's theme actually leaves room for a little less explicitly gay and more
Mhm.
subtextually gay sometimes, because this year we are doing homoerotic thriller pride,
Ooh.
because there's so many thrillers out there, thrillers in our little opening blurb, and we only do them here and there, and so often they just have this like queer charged energy that fuels characters but doesn't necessarily like make it into the plot itself. And I'd say this one, it's in the plot, guys, which is so
Oh,
lovely to
yeah.
see. But I'm really excited to just get into the thriller vibes with the charged romantic sexual yearning not always fulfilled.
Yeah.
It's right there.
But also just like the erotic thriller itself
The
is a
erotic
subgenre,
thriller.
which is like sexy thriller. So then we add the homo into it. We're getting
Mhm.
everything that you want. Because this is a sex-driven story.
There was a time, Allison, remember we had a little movie marathon? I had you watch Basic Instinct for the first time and
Yes.
Body Heat for the first time. Was there like a third one in our
Wait, what was the second one you said? The
Body Heat?
Body heat.
Yeah,
I
Kathleen
don't
Turner.
I don't think there was a third one.
We'll need to
But I was about to
revisit.
say, what is an erotic thriller? And I've forgotten all about our marathon back in the day. So it clearly left an impression.
But this movie came out in 1983, and I'd be curious to hear all your guys' thoughts. Like, I was not anticipating that it was gonna like be so like textually gay. Like, I thought it was gonna
Yeah.
be like more subtextually, and I was like really surprised. Especially, I don't know why. Like with two women on the screen too, I was really surprised by that element of it.
Yeah. I heard it was the first time, really, that had happened in a mainstream movie or something like that. That it was kind of impactful. I don't know. Anybody else know about that? Hear about that?
I mean, just
I
for it to be in such like a major Hollywood film, I mean, yeah, it seems like it's pretty early on.
I know it's one of the most like well-known
Yeah.
lesbian vampire on screen thing, and it's incredible.
Yeah,
I
I think
think-
I've also heard that it's one of the first ones. I'm definitely. I don't know if it's the first. I can't find a source that says that, but it's definitely early days. Early days for the girlies to be playing on screen like that.
With no
Yeah.
subtext.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it was there definitely have been like lesbian homoerotic thrillers and such before. I think the fact that there was a full-blown sex scene that was
Yeah.
considered pretty racy at the time I think that maybe, I don't know if it was like new per se, or if it was like so bold as to be noteworthy still. But this movie definitely got held up in a way where it was framed as like very salacious, very like it goes there kind of thing. Like, can you believe? Oh my God, like they really fuck.
There's
Not
a
that it's
nipple
like
in a mouth. That's
there is a
pretty
nipple in
big.
the mouth. And
Yeah,
it is interesting because the nipple in the mouth. They use like body doubles for parts of that scene, which
I
sorry to
figured.
say. But that I think is like kind of bold to show on screen in the 80s, but the way it's framed in a lot of the research that I was doing in terms of like this movie's place in queer cinema history and also just like queer culture in general, is that it was kind of coming off of the debaucherous 70s and like the more freewheeling sexual 70s, and it was right before the AIDS crisis was really like taking a front stage place in discussion of queer culture and queer community, especially because the book came out in 1981 and this was already being worked on for a movie before the book was even published. So even though like it definitely seems like some of the lines you're like, that seems like it could be addressing what's going on in the AIDS crisis with a bloodborne disease being exchanged between queer people. It was just
not.
a little coincidence.
Yeah.
They're like, whoa, who would have
my
thought?
Yeah, but it is interesting to have a lesbian sex scene in this movie because I think
I found it to be very
it's rare.
interesting. I was very interested by it. Just speaking for myself. But okay, you brought up the book, and I wanted to talk about that for a second because I got really fucking angry today. I did not know that this was based on a book. I have been hearing about this movie for literal years since we started the podcast. Whenever I ask Google gay horror movie, this is like the fifth thing that comes up. And I'm like, let me see more David Bowie. I still haven't seen Labyrinth, so
What?
I know.
Wow.
That feels
I have
I
a
Is
mean,
a
lot of
I
crime.
haven't seen it, but that feels really out of
I know.
character for you.
I know. I've heard about the
That's a
codpiece.
crime for
I know
both of
about it.
y'all.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's
Some of the
less my beef.
you guys, the soundtrack alone of Labyrinth is incredible. You gotta check it out.
I'm
Should we
very
do a party?
interested.
I would yes,
Yeah,
please.
come over
Yes,
tonight.
let's
We'll
do
watch
it.
Labyrinth. Let's go. But yeah, this book for this that came out in 81. Whitley Strieber is the name of the author. And I finished the movie this morning, and I was like, I'm gonna read the fucking book today because we've all seen the movie, and we know that it's vibes. It's mostly vibes. It's based on some stuff, and there's definitely some stuff you can glean and think of and make up yourself. But it's not really telling you explicitly a lot of things. It's mostly gorgeous, gorgeous vibes. And so I was like, I need to know. I want to know where the
What's
vibes
the
came
substance
from.
underneath?
Like there's a whole fucking text. This is the only book in the world that's not an audiobook, and I can't read fast. I can't read 350 pages in a day. I looked at it. I was like, I'm going to pay money. I'll pay money for this audiobook. I'll put it on 3 speed so I can speed right through it. It is not an audiobook. It's honestly illegal. I'm going to talk to Whitley myself. Learned a lot about him, though. He has books about wolves and aliens as well. So he's got a really diverse set of things here. What?
Do you know what
Chelsea?
else he wrote that got adapted into a movie?
What?
He wrote the book that The Day After Tomorrow is based on.
What?
Oh, wow.
Wait, what's that is ringing a bell, but what is The Day After Tomorrow? Is that the
I
like
thought you loved
storm?
The Day After Tomorrow.
Is that the
Yeah.
storm one?
With Jake Gyllenhaal
Yeah,
and Dennis Quaid.
yeah.
And
it's
Emmy
like the climate
Rossum.
crisis.
Yeah, I do
Literally
love that.
one
I
of
do
the
love
best
that. It's just been a
movies of
minute.
all time.
We should do that. We should do a storm. We should do storm month.
Ooh,
Storm
That's
fun.
month.
Storm.
The
That's
perfect storm.
actually-
The day after tomorrow.
No, the day after tomorrow's too close to home now. It could happen
know.
anytime. That's
Then
the real horror.
We could do San Andreas Natural Disaster Month. Anyway, I'm so sorry.
My sister-in-law loves San Andreas. It's like her favorite movie.
I've never seen it, but I talk a lot of
It's
shit.
funny.
But I was trying to even find like a good synopsis on the book, so I could just read that, like a play-by-play. All I could find was like a 2-paragraph synopsis. That's nothing. That's nothing.
Yeah.
I want moment by moment. And so what I did find was something on Reddit.
Mm.
And it was just a post about how bad the writing of women was in the book and
Ooh.
how awfully
no.
written the the sex scenes were.
Hmm.
Yeah, they was saying like all this stuff about nipples and boobs bobbing and pretty faces and unquenchable sensuality of her compact body and blah 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 blah. But in that, I actually found out a lot of information. I actually found out a lot of information because somebody on Reddit actually gave me the synopsis that I was looking for. So as we go along, I have 5 facts that I could share about what actually is happening in the movie. Because I was very confused about the actual details of the vampirism,
Oh, I
however you
have
want to
lots of
say it.
questions about
Same.
the lore.
Yeah,
Same.
and I have a couple of answers here, not a ton. But I love a new set of vampire rules, and we're certainly getting a new set here.
We are.
These are totally different than any other rules
Yeah.
I'd seen before.
Well, I have a theory, I guess, to propose because I was wondering, not to bring it back to the fan fiction that I mentioned when we covered the others on your podcast.
Bring it back.
You're
But
connecting it
that
all.
important. It's
movie,
important.
I
Easter
learned
egg. Easter
that
egg.
there's like lots of different kinds of creatures, and in that one, there was like a vampire, then there's like a half vampire who was like born of like a vampire parent and a human parent. And that's not necessarily related to this movie, but it lets me know that there's like established other kinds of like vampire stuff out there that I just don't have the knowledge about. That opens the door for me to get creative. But
course.
them hinting that or not hinting, them saying that she is from like ancient Egypt. I was trying to research like vampire lore in ancient Egypt, and there isn't really any. But there's an Egyptian god called Sekhmet that drank blood and was
Ooh.
believed to cause plagues and was called upon to ward off disease and heal the sick. So kind of positioning her in my mind as more of like an Egyptian goddess made sense to me, and she can kind of create vampires, which is more what they are, and that's why she's different and her blood is different than human blood, and she
Yeah.
appears in mirrors even if it's only like a glimpse and she's gone, and like she can go out in the sun. They also can go out in the sun because we see John in the sun. So that is like something that they have as well. But I think it's really interesting that the way they sort of move through that and kind of they don't use the word vampire at any point.
Do they
but
have
them
fangs?
No,
Like, I didn't notice fangs.
they don't have
either.
fangs. Yeah, they
have
don't
their
have fangs.
pendant.
Instead,
Yeah.
they use the Ankh necklace, and the Ankh is
to
also an
puncture.
Egyptian thing, to puncture and suck the blood just with their little mouths. No special teeth. Otherwise, I'd be wearing the teeth because I spent all that money on those fucking vampire teeth.
But no, it's interesting the way that they just like are set apart a little bit. And I don't know, I think I'm so curious, like just about what is the deal in the books, do they say in that?
Well, I don't have like the explicit
Yeah.
details. I just have this interpolation from this person who read the book and was like, yeah, he does write the women terribly, but here's some stuff that happened in the book just so you have a little bit more context. And I appreciate that. But yeah, for me, I feel like she's almost like a sorceress for sure from ancient Egyptian times. We did that one cut of Miriam back in the day where she's got the fucking like classic Egyptian makeup on and like
The like
the
headdress thing.
headdress thing, and she's sucking blood back then. But yeah, she is a true vampire, and a true vampire in this world is a different species than a human. Like they're not created, they're born. That's just what they are, and they live forever and have eternal youth. I don't know if they're born, but I'm assuming since they're different species, they have to be born. Anyway, I don't know how it's determined when they stop. I guess aging. I guess it's just when they get the sexiest, and that's when they stop, and then they stay that sexy the whole time. So that works for me.
Oh,
But yeah,
is that why if they're like their companions when they turn, they age at some point? Maybe.
yeah. So basically, no. Yeah, that's what I was just getting to. Basically, a human can never become a vampire because they cannot be a true vampire because they cannot change species. So what they do is like imbue the human with their blood, and it gives them eternal life, scare quotes. You can't see it if you're listening, not on YouTube. But yeah, so basically she kind of knows that there's an expiration date to each of these partners, but it varies. So it depends on like how long they live, or sorry, how long they live just depends. Excuse me. And also, this is a question that I had. So this isn't in the info that I have, but this is something I saw brought up in a different article. Some people were thinking, oh, does she does her affection for her partner, like, does the longevity of that affection correlate to the longevity that the of that half vampire that she's created? Like, if she gets the ick, is that signaling when they're going to start expiring? Because in this article I was reading, they're arguing that it was an affair, like we were joking about earlier. That Miriam's character meets what is Susan Sarandon's character's name?
Sarah.
Sarah meets Sarah, or sees Sarah, is interested in Sarah, and her affection starts to wane for John for John because of that, and that triggers the change for him. So what do you guys think about that?
I like it. I feel like that adds some stakes to the interpersonal immortal relationships happening.
Especially when like the other person doesn't know, like, oh well, if I stop liking you, then you're just gonna become old and I'm gonna put you in a box. I could kill you, but I won't.
It's an interesting idea to me for sure, but I think I like it more that it is just tragic. That she is so, I mean, they talk about this in Interview with a Vampire kind of stuff sometimes. And I was thinking about that, the sort of canon, which I haven't read any of the books. I'm really only familiar with like the TV show and the Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise movie and Queen of the Damned, which we covered, which I was thinking about during this because she also is Egyptian and kind of turns into a statue because she's like sitting still long enough. And in the TV show, they kind of do the same thing of like when they get old enough, they do sort of like decay and turn to dust to a degree, basically. So it feels like there's like something to the vampire lore there. But just the idea of being an eternal creature when no one else is or can be is such an inherently lonely concept. And so the tragedy of being like so afraid to be alone that you must have a companion and you can't possibly give them the truth ahead of time that you are dooming them to eternal suffering. You have to sell them on this concept of like forever youth and forever love, even though you know that you're lying as you say it. And maybe you hope like this time will be different. And like maybe she looks to Sarah, sees her on the news and learns that she's a longevity specialist trying to stop the ticking of time on the biological human body, and is like, this could be my answer for John. And then it's just because she knows, I think there's that moment in the beginning after they've killed the couple from the club where they're getting in the shower and he's being like, forever and ever, right? And she's kind of like,
I didn't hear you.
Yeah,
what? The water is so loud in this shower.
She's like, yeah, but she won't even say anything. She's just like,
kiss,
remember when I
kiss.
said it last time? Just live off of that a little longer. And
No, I agree with you. I think it must be really hard for her to be an eternal lover girl as she is, an undead lover girl, because I really think that she authentically loves all of these people that she chooses. And that's why I brought up that theory, but I don't actually agree with it at all. I don't think it necessarily makes sense with the timeline of the movie. And there's also a couple more details that I know from the book that, in my opinion, disprove that theory as well, which I'll bring up. I like the idea.
It's
I
an
like the
interesting idea. I
think it's
agree.
a really interesting idea. But apparently in the book, Alice, that is her name.
The girl,
Alice,
yeah.
the
That's
little
who-
girl
I was gonna ask
played by
about her,
Beth
yeah.
Eller. She's so cute. Gross. She's being groomed.
Yeah.
to
yeah.
be Miriam's next lover
Well,
years
that's
from
what-
now.
Companion.
Oh, you're saying that is for sure what is happening in the
That
books?
is what it said.
Oh, okay.
This
Yeah. 'Cause
information
Because I was like, that's what
received
he
from
accuses her of,
Reddit.com.
but is
But yeah,
he trustworthy
that's-
as a source or is he biased? But if it's in the books, that's a little more clear.
Yeah, I think it's like a little more explicit in the books that is like sort of her long-term plan. But again, I really do think that she is like fully focused on John because she grieves all these people.
Okay, but I
Yeah, she has
will-
her
and she
mourning
loves
veil in so
them.
much of the movie.
Wait, but I
There's like
will
that one close shot of her just
say-
like through the netting.
There were a lot of like hilarious shots where they zoomed in on their faces and it was like vibes. But wait, I'm gonna say though that Alice says, okay, I've been coming here for a year, right? So she's kind of new to this dynamic. And so a year ago, Miriam's been like, okay, I need to start planning for somebody new.
Mhm.
Which, yeah, she's a kid, so it seems like time's gonna go by, but I would suggest that makes me think that she is kind of like, okay, who's my next lover?
Yeah, I
you know,
think
like
it's like
there's some
Thinking about it.
question.
yeah, Miriam's like plan. I think David Bowie's character, I think like dies earlier than Miriam anticipated, but she knew it was coming, and so she's like grooming Alice. I will say, I like read some theories online, and they mentioned Alice having. If I had watched the movie, like I wouldn't have even thought of Alice's character at all of being groomed. It was only in like reading that,
Yeah.
and it sounds like in the book it's
No,
supposed
I
to be like
agree.
that. Because I was kind of like, who is this Alice? Like, why is this Alice kid coming
She's
over?
she's so funny
And-
though. I love her.
And another thing that I read, that was kind of uh, interesting, I thought spoke, is Alex comes to this house and she meets like John, but John is like aged rapidly, and so she like can't
Mhm.
recognize him. And she's like, "You look so familiar. You look like John. You look like John. Like, are you John's father? Are you John?" And then he's like denying it, saying no.
He's like, ugh.
yeah, and then
The worst
then-
possible thing
yeah.
you could have said to me.
yeah, and there's this like comparison to like Little Red Riding Hood is like Alice like walks the room is like, oh, like your
Oh,
eyes
what
look
big
like
eyes you
John, yeah, and like
have.
all that, and then he like attacks her. It's kind of like it's like a dark reading on.
Ooh,
That's
I
sad.
love
Yeah.
that. Oh,
But
that totally is what that is. I love
yeah.
that.
But why did John kill Alice?
That's one
Yeah.
of my discussion questions. And I
Okay.
have 5 proposed theories, and I think probably to some degree it's
Whoa.
a combination of all of them. But
Chelsea's sitting in her room earlier today with the fucking like wall and the red
How
string.
do we connect all of this?
Okay, keep
One,
going. I'm sorry.
to try and extend his life. 2, to
Mm.
try and save her from his fate. 3,
Mm.
to spite Miriam, if that's who he thinks she's going for next. 4, to provoke Miriam to kill him because he goes really quickly from like save me to like release me, then kill me. Like I did this it's so like I did this really horrible thing. Like this was our protege, this was our student, this was like the person that we invited into our house who was like a youth and an innocent, and I killed. She's like, what did you do? And it's like, I killed her. Don't you want to kill me now? And then number 5 is out of envy over her youth.
I think it's a combo pack.
All of the
girl.
above.
I
Yeah.
think it's E.
That's
F.
the test bubble
All
I'm
of the
filling in.
above.
I think it's like he'll try anything to survive. I think it's like he knows if he can't survive, he knows enough about what's her name? Lalia. He knows enough about Lalia and Lalia's fate to know I don't
the
want that
last
to
I was
happen
like,
to me.
who?
Yeah, the previous lover. I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want that to happen to anyone because it sounds really horrible. He's like clearly familiar with what goes on up there in the attic. So he
Yeah.
doesn't want that to happen to Alice, who he does care for to some degree. But it's also like, if you're eyeing her, like, fuck you, you're already moving on and I'm not even dead yet. And then it's also like, again, kill me then. Like, what's the worst thing I could do that would make you snap and kill me, maybe, if there's anything?
Does he ask for release before or after he then says kiss me when he's really old and
after.
okay. Because I wondered if that was
Or it's
also
all.
Yeah, it's after Kiss Me. He says, you
Yeah.
said forever, never ending. Do you remember? And she says, every day. And he says, forever, you said. And then there's the little flashback of her saying, forever and ever. And he says, never growing old. Do you remember? And she says, stop it. He says, forever young. She says, stop it. He says, a kiss. Kiss me. Think of me as I was. Kiss me like that. And then as he's dying, he's like, give me a little longer. And then right after that is, then kill me, release me. And she says, I can't. And that's where in my notes I have, oh, did he also do what he did to Alice to provoke her into handling this?
yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a naive thing. Like, he can't die. This is the thing that I don't understand, and I don't have an answer to this. And if you do, good luck. That's great. Like, he knew about Lolly. What the hell was her name? Sorry.
Well, Lalia.
Lalia. He knew about her. He knows about the fucking mausoleum.
How long did it take with all the
fucking
others?
corpses up there. So he knew at some point that his forever was not that.
Really?
It wasn't for eternal youth. It's forever, but not eternal youth. And so what was he thinking, like we all do? Well, it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen to me, though, because I'm actually her special number one baby boy forever.
I'm her sweet little boy, her number one
I'm
guy.
Cutie patootie. And he is. He really is. But it's not enough.
I think they both kind of have the same hopeful spirit, which is maybe this time will be different, or maybe things have progressed, or maybe we've learned something now from all of the other experiences that have come before. But just based on seeing the way that she acts with Sarah, I think it's really clear that this is not information that she gives up front. So like you're so stuck in this situation before you ever know anything about it, and then she goes, you're going to be young and beautiful forever, we're going to be in love forever and ever, eternity. And you go, okay, oh my god, yay, fun. And then it's only after like 100 years go by that maybe you learn about the attic.
You go up into the attic one day because you're looking for something, and you're like,
what's this?
babe?
Who are they?
Yeah. Well, that's a great point too. If John's like had a similar situation as Sarah, it's like Sarah's already like turned before she even knew what had happened. So you're already signed up anyway. So then it's like, well, hopefully this time will be different.
It's kind of like we all don't think we're gonna die. We just deny that every day because we're scared. Exactly. I feel like it's the same. Like even if they have, like Sarah probably knows something fishy is going on here. Like I'm drawn into this, but something that man aged like 40 years in front of me, and I went to the house. We just don't think we're gonna die. You know what I mean? That's what I think is going on.
Like you don't think it can happen to you.
Yeah, less darker version of that. It's kind of like the weekend. You know, it's like Friday, and you're like, oh, like I'm done with work. It's party like all weekend, and then like Monday comes faster than you thought. You're like, oh god damn it, it's happening
like
again.
I'm gonna kill myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Even if he like realizes like, oh fuck, one day I'm gonna turn into a nasty zombie thing that just lays in a box for the rest of time. He's like, well, but I get to have like 200 fucking sexy years playing the cello with Miriam, my girl. Like that sounds great. That's gonna seem like forever, and it is until
it's not.
Yeah. The choice to like live for like a few centuries longer, and then have to like watch your body like physically like understand that you're like rotting away. I'd rather have a shorter lifespan and just be able when I die, I die. I don't crumble into dust.
It's interesting because again, he's like 300 years old, but she's like 6,000 years old. And people like someone on IMDb or something like that did the math on there are 7 coffins shown, and it says like 300 years is like roughly the standard life expectancy for them. That takes her back to like 1000 BC, which correlates loosely with the Egyptian era that we sort of get a peek at. And I also would argue that her keeping the coffins around is like further proof that it's like, that is my love. Like, I can't let them go.
That's what I mean. She's the eternal lover girl.
She
And like,
even,
I don't know.
John's body up there. She like speaks to the other coffins, be like, treat him well. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't understand that they were all still
Guys,
they
be
like
nice
were
to
like
him.
alive. Yeah, be nice
Yeah.
to him. I was like, oh,
Be kind to
okay.
him tonight.
He's
Yeah,
new
yeah.
I'm imagining
here. It's
they
his
all
first
like
night.
get out of
They
the coffin
moan
at night and they're like,
together.
oh, but fucking Miriam. I love her though. I
At
gotta
least they have
love
each
her.
other though. That's kind of nice,
Sequel.
right?
Well,
They're their
like,
own
Unity.
little
kind
group.
of, it raises the question a little of like, can they die? Or can she not bring herself to kill them? And so she leaves them just like rotting away in their
That is a
coffins.
good question.
Because what she
I
says,
wanna
one
read the
quote
book.
is, "There is no release, my darling, no rest, no letting go. Humankind die one way or another. Their end is final. Ours is not. In the earth, in the rotting wood, in the eternal darkness, we will see and hear and feel." So she is talking about them as like an us, like we're different than humankind, but also if they can't change their species and they're still humankind, they're just like imbued with some properties. I think there's room for investigating that question at least
Totally.
of like, could she kill them and she just doesn't have the stomach for it as an individual, or can they not be killed and she knows from moment one that she is dooming them to this eternal fate, but she needs companionship in the meantime. This is the easiest way to get it for the longest amount of time, and when you're freshly eternal, quote unquote, 300 years seems like a really long time, especially when you're not aging to the point of decay over those 300 years. You
Yeah,
are
it's just
staying
one really
perfectly
bad day.
preserved. Yeah,
Yeah.
until like the 1 week that you stop sleeping, and then all of a sudden you start to turn to dust.
Well,
I have a
she
whole new
said-
anxiety when I have insomnia now.
I know. I was thinking the same
God
thing. while I was
damn.
watching.
Keep going. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that she said, Miriam says at one point, "You all are a part of me," and I took that really very literally. That the kind of transformation process means that they are actually connected to her soul or lack thereof. So I think that they can't die because I think that she would need to perish for them to perish as well.
And this is why I was just going grumble grumble. I need to read the book because like we don't get answers that make fucking sense in this movie at
No.
all. Like even we'll talk about the end more in depth later, but even Susan Sarandon was like quoted being like, "It's really too bad about the ending because we spent all this time raising these certain stakes and then we just completely dashed them all just to do something crazy." Like
Well-
that's not an exact quote, but like it doesn't make sense. I don't know. I don't have the answer of like if it because it seemed at the end like she was kind of dying, and then finally all those souls were at rest because they crumpled into smithereens. But are those smithereens still sentient? My God, the horrors are ceaseless.
The problem with the ending is that the studio got involved and said, we want to leave the door open for a sequel, which is why it has the ending it does. And it is not supposed to be the ending. And there's a Susan Sarandon quote that apparently is from the DVD extras, where she says, like, let me find it real quick. Susan Sarandon. I read a bunch of articles, so it's in one of my notes. Sorry.
While you're looking, I'll just
Yeah.
throw in there that though the ending made no sense, I did love the shot of Susan Sarandon
And
in
That was a
her
cool shot.
amazing balcony with her love
Yeah.
for
Two boy and girl lovers. Yeah,
I say worth it for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found the quote, Chelsea. If
Okay.
you want me to read it. I
Go
think
for
it's
it.
the same one. She says, all the rules that we'd spent the entire film delineating, that Miriam lived forever and was indestructible, and that all the people that she transformed eventually died, and that I killed myself rather than be an addict, were ignored. Suddenly I was kind of living and she was kind of half dying. Nobody knew what was going on, and I thought that was a shame.
Yeah, it seemed like for her, one of the key like character takeaways for Sarah was like confronting this idea of eternity, which of course she doesn't know necessarily has a shelf life, other than she sort of saw John, but she doesn't really know like what that deal was. You know, nobody's explaining it to her. And as far as she knows, maybe he really did go to a clinic in Switzerland or whatever it is. She only knows that if she's going to live this existence, it's going to be like chasing that next fix constantly, or you're either a monster who's drinking like left and right and killing people and consuming them, or you're waiting until you're desperate and then you are behaving like someone who is like that Willem Dafoe at the phone booth calling her a junkie. And she decides she doesn't want to live that way, and then because they wanted to maybe do a sequel, which they never did, but there are 2 more books I think in the series. They changed it, and instead it's like just undoes her character choice and like the consequences and like the rules they set up. And it's, I mean, I don't like hate it as a movie ending necessarily. It's fun
visually, I had a fun time, but
same.
we're getting the
for
cart
like
before the horse.
the ethos of the film, it is kind of like womp womp.
When they kept zooming in on her face, Miriam said she was dying, and she just kept going like this, and they kept flashing back to it as she like wasted away. That's ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
It's because that is so stupid, and the rest of this movie is, in my opinion, like a fucking like editing dream. Like, it is so beautifully pieced together in such a like not chaotic but kind of chaotic way, but I thought in an artistically beautiful way. And then you have this like fucking like horror movie zombie ending almost, and it's so hilarious. What a juxtaposition.
Also, I love in like 80s movies, especially like they hadn't quite figured out how to use like slow motion or at what points, because there's always really like odd points, like
it's like really
John
jumpy too, the way it's like
it's like, well, and then they always choose like the weirdest things to put in slow motion. It's like John like gets pushed down the staircase and they're like, we'll put this in slow motion. It's like, why do I need to see him roll down the staircase in slow motion? It's just
so
funny.
you fully have time to appreciate the stakes.
I love
oh no, he's still going.
And then too, just like there were like amazing set pieces in this movie, but there were it's so like beautifully shot. Like it felt kind of like just like very like 80s like commercial like music video, like like when Sarah's like kind of like sweating and like not doing well in the bedroom. There's like the curtains are like blowing, like all these like I've never seen so many linens in like one room before.
My God, the linens.
And all those like those giant 80 lamps. Yeah,
she was like crouched in that kind of dancer way.
Yes. Wait, okay.
She's about to spring up,
like,
and
the doves like slowly flapping away as well.
That's
the birds.
A lot of doves. There were like 10,000 doves. At the end
they were so sinister in the dark, and then when everyone went to rest and they were finally free, it was suddenly light, and the birds looked very different and lovely.
They're beautiful now.
They're gorgeous.
They're free.
There are a lot of birds actors in this movie. I was thrilled to see.
That was kind of what I did like about the ending, though. Like, I totally see Susan Sarandon's point and take her point that it really undoes a lot of the work of the rest of the movie. But watching the relationship develop between Sarah and Miriam, like, I loved the flirtation and the sex scene, and I really liked the way it was handled from a queer perspective of, like, sometimes two people just vibe, and it doesn't really matter necessarily whatever their orientation was before, the way that they thought of themselves. It's just like, but I am able to recognize that there's like a connection here, and I'm curious to explore it, whatever it is. And if I feel like you're attracted to me and you want me, and I'm feeling aroused and I'm feeling attracted to you, so I'm like, okay, let's have like a human shared moment and just figure out whatever this is. Like, I love that. But as soon as she is going through her transformation, it becomes really clear to me that Miriam is kind of an abuser. And she hits her at one point, and like right after she hits her, there's the dialogue that's like, you'll be back when the hunger hurts so much you've lost all reason, then you'll have to feed, and then you'll need me to show you how. And it's so, she says like, you belong to me, we belong to each other. And there's nothing to be frightened of as long as you put your faith in me, give me time, trust me. It's so like, immediately I've isolated you from everybody else in your world. You can never go back. You can only ever be with me. It's the only choice. And I'm not giving you any information. And I didn't give you any say in this whatsoever. So for all of her former lovers slash victims to like rise up against her at the end and say like, we opt out, or like, I don't want to do this, I really liked that. But it's a different movie at that point from the one that they were originally making.
So what's the original ending supposed to be?
I think that it was just supposed to be Susan Sarandon sacrifices herself instead of accepting her newfound role as companion.
And
Miriam's
she's dead,
just
and
left.
then it's Miriam. Like, there's something that I read where an idea for another ending was Miriam off in Europe, maybe somewhere, like by herself, like playing the piano on her own, like facing the possibility of an eternity alone. Which I think would have been a really beautiful and poetic ending.
Well, yeah, because then I'm wondering too if there's 2 sequels to that book. Like, I feel it makes more sense to have Miriam continue, because to then have Sarah live on. I feel
They
like
kind of position it at the end of the movie as though Sarah has kind of become the Miriam a little bit, I feel like.
Okay.
Like, I kind of feel like the concept was that, I know it doesn't make sense, but since the whole purpose of the new ending is that it doesn't make sense with anything else, I kind of feel like they were positioning it to be like, she's gonna be the Miriam now, and these 2 other people, the man and the woman, because guess what, guys? Now she's confirmed bisexual. They're like, she's doing the thing now where she's like going around collecting lovers and building up her like rich estate and blah blah blah. But yeah, I think what I would imagine,
it's like,
I don't know.
Oh, she stayed in the whole movie. It's like she stayed true to herself and her morality. She is a scientist after all, and that is so important. Blah 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 blah. She sacrifices herself after she's committed a cardinal sin against her old lover, and then at the end they're like, "JK, she's gonna
actually, guys,
a serial
you know
killer
how power
now,
corrupts. Yeah,
and she's just gonna keep the cycle of violence going. You got to keep the cycle of violence going. It's so important."
It's
so
one
funny.
thing to be a
It's
minion
ridiculous.
for someone powerful, and it's another thing to become the powerful person yourself. Hello.
Something
but
something live long enough to become the villain.
This is the
But I
prequel to
think-
Batman.
I think for Miriam, the original ending, if it wasn't like her being alone and having to face that, I think it could have been like her like looking for her next person, maybe. But the idea of her alone, I think, could really resonate, especially with the perspective of her being abusive. If this is the first time someone has ever basically gone like, this is horrible, like this is not a dream come true, and I reject this. I don't think maybe it's because I'm listening to the 4th You book right now as well, but it's very like Joe and his pattern of like, he's like, I'm a lover guy.
No, it's totally
and
like
I can
that. It's
justify
exactly
all of my
like that.
she's like, I'll always
It's
find
exactly
someone to
like that.
love. And it doesn't occur
Great
to her that she's
parallel.
doing anything wrong or terrible. And this is the first time it's like being presented to her of like, I would not want that. There are people who would not want that. You've doomed me beyond even the decaying and then being a corpse staring up at the lid of my coffin for eternity. I just don't even want to be a vampire and live that life.
Yeah.
Like, for that to be a wake-up call for her could be very interesting.
No, she's like, oh, it's so interesting. She has a very high regard for herself, as she should. It's
does.
Catherine Deneuve. My God. But she's like, I love these people. I love them truly and deeply with my whole soul. I care for them forever. And she does. And she does. And I'm not doubting that at all. But her level of care and her love, it has finite endings, and we're talking about eternity here. You know, she is signing them up for the rest of eternity. She's making, in the case of Sarah, the decision for them because she's like, I love you and you're gonna love me. Don't worry, that'll come with time. That's almost a quote from the movie. And she just like she sees herself as like a god in a way, and she might be, honestly, because
Yeah.
she kind of has these superpowers that we don't really get into at all. But remember when she had a vision of Susan Sarandon being hit by a Mack truck, and then she touches her heart and thinks of Susan Sarandon and saves her from the
And
Mack
said,
truck?
"Not today."
I remember that. That happened. There's something going on with her. She
It
could be
kind
an
of did.
ancient, like, mythological creature. That is what vampirism is here, which I fuck with, by the way. But
It
if
did
she's a
kind of
god,
remind
she
me.
has the ego of a god. Keep going.
Mhm.
Sorry.
It reminded me of Thelma, 2017 Thelma, to be clear, where it's like
Thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying.
she like sends out her thrall to Sarah in that bookstore. Like Sarah keeps hearing like the ringing phone that is like Miriam like
Yes.
calling out to her.
Yes.
And she like looks up in that moment when Miriam is like staring her down, and then Lilybell comes along to interrupt. But it very much, the whole attraction in general feels like Thelma like willing something to happen. Like it happens because she wants it, so not even necessarily that she's like doing anything on purpose, but just she wants it so bad that it has sway over the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting way to like think of it. I didn't think of it that way as like Miriam thinking of with all of her lovers. It's like how fortunate you are to like be my lover because I'm so incredible. Because there's a whole like when John like wants to be put out of his misery and he's like, please kill me. She's like, I can't. She's like exhausted by the idea of
I
it. Like
love you too
just thinking,
much.
yeah. She's like, I love you too much. I can't like lose. And she's like looking at it more from her perspective and see instead of like seeing the terror
Yeah.
of what he's going through. And
He
so I like
aged
that.
100 years in a day.
Yeah. And so I like that idea of that ending of Sarah like helping Miriam understand what she's doing to these people. And I feel like that would show like the growth. And
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
I-
never had anyone say no to her before.
exactly. Yeah.
And
I
that
mean,
was
and
that was
Who
Sarah
would
saying
say
no,
to
by
her though?
That's true.
You gotta
I
give it a
wouldn't be
try at
strong
least,
enough.
you know.
I surely wouldn't be strong enough.
I was just gonna say, there's a quote in there when he's saying like, what happened with Lalia last time? Like, how long did it take? She says, it's the same. It's always the same. I prayed I'd never lose you. I know what's happening to you. I live with your suffering again and again. I had hoped that this time was just somehow some miracle. I've never stopped hoping that. And he's like, what's going on? Like, who's gonna be next then? And she's just like, stop it. Like, she's so like, she wants to have this eternal love story, and she just like lives in
Yeah.
denial for so long with it until she can't avoid the reality anymore. But she's like, there's no release, my darling. There's no like, she wants to be like kind to them about it. She's like taking him upstairs. She says the quote is, be kind to him, with Lalia.
Yeah, and I was just gonna add some like evidence to your reading of the ending, Chelsea, which is I thought that when Sarah's boyfriend shows up
Tom
to kind
Haver.
yes,
I love that guy. He's such a piece of shit.
My God, yeah.
You hate Sherry. It gives you headaches.
I
He
think you
knows
should go to
her.
the
Okay,
doctor.
he knows her.
Joe,
I'm
edit
getting
your
a
name
vibe
on
that
Zoom.
You did gay shit with that woman, and you need to go to the hospital. Actually, keep going, Allison. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think yeah, he kind of does that because I think what he says to her is a similar line of like, I got you, you belong, like I love you, you belong to me. And so maybe it was like hearing it twice, and then the second time, because she was like trying to get him to leave, like because she knew that she would kill
Gonna eat
him.
yeah.
And then she was like, no, I'm gonna eat you now. And then I wonder if it was kind of like
Damn.
she heard an echo of this power over her, this dynamic where she's being subjugated or controlled, and she's like, no more, no one ever again, starting with this guy. And next up
Like,
next
he's
up
obviously
Mrs. Baylock herself.
obviously not pro me experimenting with my bisexuality, and that's not gonna work for me. So he's got to go.
I just think, but it's so interesting, like homosexuality or like bisexuality or like even like having that in like a major motion picture in 1983 is just like so bold. And I don't really know the history of it, but I was so impressed because we kind of joked earlier, like we want to see like a threesome would be really fun between like John, Sarah, and Miriam. But I kind of like that it was just between
Yeah,
Miriam and Sarah because
it
I
would
felt like
have
so many vampire
pacified it having a
movies.
man in there.
Yeah, so many vampire movies. I feel like there's like Dracula and he has like all these brides, and it's like implied like, oh, all of his brides are together. You know, it seems kind of a homoerotic. Whereas this is like they just want each other. So I thought that was like
They're not
really
Yeah, and the
refreshing.
man's like aging away out of
Exactly.
all desirability
Yeah.
Yeah.
upstairs in his coffin.
Yeah, I mean,
we need a little bit more Carmilla and a little less Dracula in these vampire
Yes.
movies. Lest we forget that Carmilla came out 26 years before Dracula did. So come on.
Oh.
Whoa.
And the movie begins with Bauhaus singing their song "Bela Luigi is Dead." Who
Incredible.
famously played Dracula. So Dracula's dead. It's Carmilla's time now, or Miriam, I guess. But she's definitely a Carmilla character.
It's so interesting though because the lesbian vampire movie is it's not like it's almost its own genre in many ways. Like there's I mean a lot of them are Carmillas, but there are so many of them. There's so many entries into that. There's Dracula's daughter, and I really wanted to see, especially in light of the fact that this is one of our Pride episodes, the way that the queer community kind of received it. Because so often the lesbian vampire is sort of like she's predatory because she's a lesbian and like she's like that's part of her like preying on people. But with this movie, so much of the coverage really talks about how her queerness is one of the words used is matter of fact, remarkably matter of fact. It's so like that's not her predatory nature, that she's queer and she's preying on innocent women and turning innocent women. It's just like she is a predator by nature, but she has like boundless love to give and that she wants to share. And because it is boundless, it's open to like anyone that she might make a connection with. And I think that's such an interesting part of Susan Sarandon's character too, where she says, the line is, when they're listening to the music, she says, I like your pendant. She says, it's Egyptian. You know, it was the symbol of everlasting life. What's that piece that you're playing? It's Lakme by Delibes. I don't know how to pronounce anything. Yeah, but she was a Brahmin princess in India. She has a slave named Malika. In a magical garden, they sing how they follow the stream to its source, gliding over the water. Sarah says, is it a love song? She says, I told you, it was sung by two women, which is sort of a cheeky little way to answer that question. And she goes, it sounds like a love song. And Miriam says, then I suppose that's what it is. And Sarah says, are you making a pass at me, Mrs. Blaylock? And she goes, Miriam. And she goes, Miriam. And she goes, not that I'm aware of, Sarah. But it's so like, I'm not flirting with you with intention necessarily, but I do find myself drawn to you. And if you're feeling drawn to me, or if you're like feeling this from me, then maybe there's just something here regardless. I think it's a really interesting way that they approached it in this movie, that where it's so sort of neutral in the story in ways that it was so often sort of like part of the spooky, scary, demonized thing in a lot of other lesbian vampire movies.
Like Sarah came to her house, you know, she didn't track her down.
Sarah's the one that goes, oops, I spilled on my shirt. I guess I better take it off.
It's in such a bad spot.
Happens. Sometimes you get sherry on your titty and you have to take your top off in front of a stranger.
It is mandatory, actually. Sherry on your top, tits out.
I also think what worked for me in that respect is both of the actresses, there's not like an age difference, and they're both mature and confident. And I just feel like they felt like they were on.
Visible.
Yeah, well, of course, you're right. I guess
Wait,
one is 6,000 years old, but yeah,
but it's usually
that.
like a naive, young, impressionable girl, and now she's a professional woman.
She is making a gerontologist, actually.
A gerontologist, as we all know.
As we're all familiar with the field.
Susan just like didn't seem phased, especially given the time period. She was like, "Are you making a pass at me? Okay, like I just felt like it could have gone very
Okay.
differently."
She's like, I'm down.
And then even with Alice, like I know it is disturbing that she is essentially grooming this child. There's that small scene where Alice is saying, "Oh, I stole drugs from my mother or
Oh, I
grandmother or
stole
my
want some
stepmother."
nudes from my
You want some nudes?
stepmom
Yeah,
or whatever.
that was incredible.
So funny.
And Miriam's very maternal. Like she's like, "Oh, Alice. Oh, Alice." Like it's not. I don't know. It's not. I feel like someone who was,
Yeah.
in our typical predatory concept of grooming, they'd be like, "Oh, you shouldn't do that, but you should get some more. You should give them to me so I can start giving them
Maybe
to
you
you."
should take one.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of Jacob and Renesmee. How like Jacob was going to be there for Renesmee in whatever way she needed,
It's
know?
actually
So-
really
Yeah.
platonic until she's of the age of sexual maturity. Okay, guys, don't get it twisted.
Yeah, so
And then
it's
my
actually
brain
totally
immediately just
fine.
switches
Not
over. I keep that part locked
Of
down.
course,
and then
she will eventually fall in love with me when I'm everything she would ever need in life. It's kind of just natural. It's not weird.
It's natural, and there's no
so
term for
disturbing.
it. There's no term for it at all. It doesn't start with a G and then an
Mhm.
R and an OOMING. No, it's not that.
I think it is like a little bit interesting in the sense that when you're a 6,000-year-old vampire, I can see it being kind of negligible to you, whether someone is 16 or 30 or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
That's a
there's
good
a
point.
6,000-year age difference regardless. And especially if she's not expecting anything to happen with Alice anytime soon. And she's just like banking it for down the road. But it's still not good. I prefer to just think of Alice as like a young protege, and her bond with John was over music from back in the day when he was a cellist and she was playing the piano. And so that's still the way that they like share their love, and their time is their own now because they've got 6,000 years of accumulated wealth. And so they can use it to share music with people, and that is the way that they interact with humanity around them, given that they can't do it in a lot of other normal ways. But also we do see her using music to seduce Sarah, so there's something to
The big
that as
power
well.
of seduction there. It's hard because Miriam's character like is evil in a lot of ways, monstrous in a lot of ways, but then also I find her to be like tragic and, likable still because
She's not their same species. She can't understand what she's damning them to other
Exactly.
than the eternal suffering of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like she imagined the loneliness of her character being like, it's not like other vampire things that we watch where there are like 5,000 million. That's not true. There are like at least 100 other vampires that you can talk to about your vampire problems. Like it doesn't seem like that here. It doesn't seem like there's a real community for her to reach out to. And so she's like trying to create what she can.
Okay,
It
does
feels
Miriam
more like Nosferatu-esque.
Yeah.
does Miriam have to have a lover?
Yes,
Like
she
she
does.
has
She'd
to?
be
Like,
alone.
Miriam?
There,
There-
Yeah,
Yes,
not her. She in
yes.
this movie, right?
Do
But why does
vampires
she
need
need-
one? No. Miriam? Yes.
there's just some people, when they get out of a relationship, they immediately get in a new relationship and they're like, no, this is actually the love of my life. I've been single for like a week. Hers is,
best.
he's dead. You're here now. 10
Yeah.
seconds max.
And
Best
also,
way to get over someone is to get under someone else.
and she
the
has
Bible,
the
I think.
information about what happens to them. They don't have the full information about what happens to them, but she knows. So she's kind of preparing herself in advance, mourning already, even as she's still with them, which is why in the shower he's going forever and ever, right? And she's going,
Yes, of
but
course.
these are the,
yeah.
are we?
Yeah. I
These
had
are
fun
all.
tonight, didn't you?
Yeah. It's just I like when I watched this movie, like I did not see her as the protagonist, and I honestly didn't feel that bad for her. But like after what happens with John, I just kind of was like, Sarah became the protagonist for me, which is really interesting because Sarah doesn't pop up till quite later in the like we see her in the hospital
I think
bed.
it's like
she's
15
in
minutes.
it throughout, but she's
They
not
do the screeching
given...
monkeys with the shower
Yes.
scene.
Okay, can we talk about the beginning? I know we talked about the end. I know we talked about the
Yeah.
whole thing. We were talking about forever, but the beginning is a masterpiece. The
It
masterpiece
looks like
of
a
all
music
time.
Guys,
video.
I was
It
so
does.
disturbed.
It
I didn't
was
need to see
so
that
good.
monkey, that bloody monkey. I did not
Oh,
need to see that.
I loved it all. I loved it all. I love the parallel. What is it called? Parallel editing?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yeah, the parallel editing where you're like seeing everything simultaneously that's going on. They do a sort of like a future editing kind of thing in this movie too, where you'll like hear the audio from the next scene while you're in the scene before. I thought that was really interesting. You're kind of seeing that with the club interspersed with the car that's like driving back over to, I'm guessing, Miriam's beautiful townhome.
Mhm.
But God, that's literally Bauhaus. Like that's Bauhaus playing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Not
Okay,
the band
I-
though, just the main guy. You don't see the rest of the band at all.
I am ashamed to say I don't know who Bauhaus is. Like, who is this? Are they like a well-known like band from the 80s or something?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
I think.
And
it might
Bela
even be a
Lugosi's Dead as a song is like pretty well
Yeah.
known on its own, at least. And so it was so interesting to see that pop up because it felt so like thematic and obvious because now, you know, 1 bazillion, not 1 bazillion, but almost 40 years later, that is like a popular reference. But they were relatively new on the scene at the time. Like IMDb trivia was like one of the people like just discovered them in a club in Europe while they were working on this movie, and then was like, oh, they should come be in the opening.
That's cool.
But
Yeah.
I have something to say about the monkeys when we circle back.
They started in 1978. They're rather fresh on the scene.
They're probably
but
filming
I
this
just
movie in
wanna
like 81,
let you
82.
know that this movie came out in 83, and Bauhaus broke up in 83.
Oh,
Wow.
their goodbye tour in this movie.
Big
When
time for
it's-
them.
They'll live on
And then it was over.
forever in this
Yeah.
movie.
It seemed to be kind of a trend with like late 70s and early 80s movies to have like these bands do the soundtracks. I remember like Tangerine, that band like has done some like movies, and then I remember Dario Argento's Suspiria, like Goblin, like that Italian rock
Oh
band
my
also did music for
God.
them.
I saw Goblin perform the score live while the movie played in downtown.
No
It was
way.
the fucking sickest thing. That's the first time I had ever seen Suspiria, was seeing it like that.
my
Oh,
God,
that
that's
must have been an
cool.
Great
incredible
first way to do
experience.
it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it doesn't always have a live band? Weird.
That's one of the movies
But-
we need to do for a Spooky Take Tuesday because I have
Oh.
seen it again
Yeah.
since, and I have fresh thoughts.
Oh.
But just the beginning in general was so iconic because this movie like didn't do like super hot when it came out, but it was
Mhm.
absolutely like adored by the 80s goth community because of that opening club scene and the way that it like depicted so perfectly the culture at the time. So I thought that was really, really cool. And then also, I don't know if you saw this in any of your research, but like, there apparently is a thing in goth culture. I know you would think I'm a goth by how accurately I've dressed to portray Miriam's character today, but I'm not. Apparently there's a connection with like Egyptian iconography and like objects like the Ankh in particular and
Oh.
goth culture. And did it start with this movie? Somebody said on Reddit. Does anyone know anything about this?
I don't think I
No.
went down the
No
goth
clue.
Egyptian
We'll
subculture
start-
rabbit hole.
Well,
but-
you should have. What the fuck? Why are you looking up? What did gay people think about this movie? Dumb.
I'm
I
a gay
wonder-
person. I'll tell you what I think.
Okay, I'll do some quiet Googling right here and I'll let you know.
Are the punk and goth scenes like, did they like originate from the same period? I wonder, kind of like break off at a certain point, because I knew, because this very much was like a punk era, right? Like the
Mhm.
late 70s, early 80s.
I don't know.
They're like goth and punk are different.
But do they have shared
Shake-
roots?
They
Shared roots.
shake
But they
hands
both
and love.
emerged in the late 70s, early 80s.
They're both like subcultures. There are
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I'm
one of
just
those
throwing things
weird
out there.
things where it's like there's, especially in hindsight, sometimes it's like hard to parse. Like, seems like there's overlap, but actually, people back in the day were like, no, we're not friends. We're very different, and don't mistake us for each other. Like, I'm not familiar enough to know, but
Like you can kind of be both a little bit, but I think punk is more political
Yeah,
and
that's
goth
right.
is kind of like more aesthetic-y subcultures.
Is Avril Lavigne punk or goth?
Someone
She
said
would
neither,
be
and she's
skater core.
Okay.
yeah.
Which I also would feel like is another
She
branch
thinks
of
she's
the.
punk.
Yes, it's a whole
Yeah.
other. Well, it's
she
Isn't she really
kind
pop,
of started
like,
to
at the end of the day?
almost go down the scene route at one point, you know, with like girlfriend. It felt very more like
Yeah.
scene culture.
That's okay.
I love subcultures.
Reminded me.
Emo, scene, goth. That's really was our own era and how those things intermingled, but we're also very different.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Just to attest to how not punk Avril is anymore. God love her. She did a song with oh, what's his name? Billy Idol. There we go. She did a song with Billy Idol recently. This is like last month. And she released it and
Gosh.
she posted 2 generations of rebellion, 1 track. Our new song 77 is out now. But then Live Nation Live Nation commented on it and said, "This is so punk rock and roll
Oh,
emoji." It made me
no.
want to kill myself. I was like, "This is actually the least punk
You're
rock
like,
thing
"And
I've ever
it's
seen
over."
in
Sure,
my
sure.
life."
Yeah.
So now Adam will just text me like, "This is so punk
Punk
rock,"
rock.
all the time. Anyway, I'm a huge Avril stan, to be clear, but
Okay.
there comes a time in every long living person's career where
Who-
they jump the shark and get a little cringe, and we're there. So
We do like talking about Avril on this podcast. I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
she's my
We
girl.
love a
She's
through
my girl.
line.
Yeah,
She came up two
yeah.
episodes ago when we did Drive Angry. And I was also thinking about last week's episode with Mandy, which takes place in the 80s and is about like rock and roll and metal music, and is very like vibey and atmospheric.
Mhm.
Another movie that I was thinking about was The Substance with this, especially
Yeah.
with like the rapid
Yes.
aging and the like science and research into like, can you stop aging? Can you be youthful and beautiful forever? What is the cost of that? Especially when they had like the blood cells that they were showing on screen, like that felt very The Substance. It really felt like I didn't know that The Substance was referencing this movie, but especially given that that director is French, and so I'm sure very familiar with the works of Catherine Deneuve, it felt like,
Yeah.
oh,
Mhm.
this is one of the original things that it was pulling from.
Mm.
I just did a double feature of The Substance followed by Death Becomes Her last Thursday.
That's a good
So
combination.
Yeah, that's
Right?
great.
So good. Can't recommend anything more, honestly. And definitely start with The Substance. But yeah, I totally agree. Like just the way that John looked by the end looked very similar to
Mhm.
Elizabeth
Yeah.
Sparkle in her final form as well. And I just got to say that I really think that the makeup was fucking baller for this. You know, there's
It
a lot
was
of
so
cheesy shit in the 80s, but this was really good.
It was well done. Yeah.
watching the opening credits, it was like Makeup Illusions by blah blah blah, whoever. I'll look it up later. And I was like,
Ooh.
Makeup Illusions, what an interesting way to present that credit. Like,
And then
okay.
you're like, oh yeah, wait,
Yeah.
that's spot
And then
on.
once I watched the movie, and especially when they were like, he said like, I'm 30 to Dr. Sarah Rogers, and then I was like, how old was he actually? Because he doesn't look 30. And then in
I
real
did
life
the
he was
same
like
thing.
36, so he was probably like
Yeah.
34, 35 during filming. And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they're Makeup Illusions. I see why they would say that, especially as he got like older and older and
Yeah.
older.
It's interesting to
Super
see too because
interesting.
we know what he looks like older.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I didn't know, like, I just didn't know about how old Bowie
Mhm.
was at any given time as well. So I was like, oh,
I
is that what he
perceive
looked
him
like
as
in 83?
old.
Forever young for me, but yeah, it was really 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 well done, and that whole just like the slow progression over the day. And back to the beginning, because I wanted you, unless someone had something to say about the age makeup again, because I wanted to bring up monkeys for Chelsea.
Yeah, go to the monkeys.
Bring up the
monkeys.
monkeys.
Bring in the
And
monkeys.
anyway, back to the beginning. Monkeys. Chelsea.
Oh,
That
you're
reminded
just
me of
giving me an
Planet of the
opening.
Apes. No, I
Yeah.
kind of forgot what I was gonna say. It reminded me of Planet of the Apes, and it also reminded me of Rise of
Yeah.
the Planet of the Apes, and it also reminded me of what's the one with 28 Days Later.
Oh, yeah.
Rainforest.
Yeah.
Well,
Mm.
you all just had your Planet of the Apes month. What was that called?
Planet of the
Planet of
April.
the
April. Mhm.
You know what somebody said to me only after we finished recording all of those episodes? They were like, "Do you know what the difference is between apes and monkeys?" And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Monkeys have tails." And I was like,
Oh,
"That is so
my
obvious now
God.
that someone has said
Oh
that."
my gosh. Yeah, I would not have figured that
Also,
out.
But
Did it?
only
Also,
difference? That can't be right.
I'm
Like,
sure
there's gotta
there's
be
more, but that's like the
and
obvious
monkeys
visual.
are smaller.
When you're like, "Is this an ape or is
Yeah.
this a monkey?" It's like, well, does it have a tail?
Mm-hmm.
But it's very easy to mix up.
Because in the Planet of
words.
the Apes movies, they get really mad if you call them monkeys instead of apes.
They get really
and say
mad.
it's racist.
It's like a
And
slur.
whatever. It's like a
Oh my
slur.
gosh.
I
It's
need to
like that
revisit.
is on a different evolutionary chain, and they're not nearly
They're
as
just-
evolved as us, and it's really fucked up. You'd say that to me right now.
It's that, or they're
Um,
just jealous that they don't have cool tails that are
That
like
they
an
don't have
extra
tails.
arm.
I think it's
I
jealousy.
think it's that.
I think you
definitely.
guys
Yeah,
are missing
I
your
think it's
tail
that.
and you're feeling
Yeah.
sad. And you're projecting
Me
on me, and
too.
I
Me
understand where
too,
it comes
babe.
from, but you need to deal with that on your own.
Exactly. Anyway, you had profound thoughts
Yeah.
about monkeys.
The substance, monkeys, the age research in this movie, super interesting. I mean, I just think that's an interesting way to
gerontology.
position her, the gerontologist, in this film when that is so much a theme of this movie.
Yeah.
But they are studying the monkeys early on, and again, after they have killed this goth couple from the club, it's like they're in the shower. He has no butt. I'm so sorry. He has absolutely no butt.
Bowie?
Yeah, it was
Don't talk
shocking
about
to
him like
see.
that.
It was
Okay,
it
cool.
upset me too, Monica. I don't know what to say. But they were cutting
has
between
other
like them
things
in the
going for him.
shower.
You
and
can't
the
have it all,
screeching of the
Chelsea. It
monkey.
would be
I
fair.
can't. Not everyone can.
This is why I was
Exactly.
subconsciously
He's
disturbed.
A beautiful voice and a wonderful
just flat.
personality
It just
and
was, like,
gorgeous
just flat.
heterochromia.
I was like, that's
no
his
ass.
crap. Where's
And
his
no
teeth?
ass.
But it cuts between them in the shower and like the screeching monkeys, and then eventually you get to the lab and you see the perspective of the lab. And the quote on there, which to me, again, they show the aging of the monkeys, how they were able to speed it up, and you see the super rapid decay, which is mirrored in John's journey. But the way that they talk about the monkeys is also very much metaphorical for the relationships. They say last night he turned on Betty, and then they go, he loved Betty, and it says you thought he loved Betty. Someone else says he tore her apart and then he ate her. So what we're
Forgot about
seeing
that.
with the
Yeah.
monkeys and the research, it really is bringing in a lot of and setting up for a lot of what else is going on in the movie in just a really interesting
Oh,
way.
totally. It's like predicting the future, or it could be like saying like John is the aggressive monkey, or Miriam
He's
is
doing
the
violence
aggressive
as
monkey.
he is. You thought
Sorry.
that he loved you. You thought that he loved Alice, but he's like breaking down. But also just this within you creates violence, begets violence, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's prediction for later on in the movie when he fights back finally. It's super. I just thought the beginning was like masterclass. Just like so many themes coming at you so quickly, and literally like sonically very discordant, super hard to even experience. Because
Yes.
it's like very sick Bauhaus song, weird sound of a car, like monkey going, "Ah!" Like it's just like a lot coming at you really quickly,
like,
and I'm like, I'm overwhelmed, but I liked it a lot. I felt good about it.
I tried to start this movie 3 times, and I thought I could watch it like passively. I watched this off of
Not.
I watched this off like Facebook Watch. Actually, was the whole movie was uploaded for free on Facebook.
Oh,
That's
I didn't know that was a
incredible.
thing.
I was watching it, and like
BBC to Facebook Watch. I thought they'd like fucking disbanded that shit.
and I like I like had it playing, and I like had like headphones on. I'd like be walking away, like doing chores around the house. I was like, "What the hell is going on in this movie?" I had kept restarting because I wasn't like visually
It's
watching it, and then I just like happened to like after my like third attempt of like trying to start the movie without really like watching it, I like happened to like read a little bit about the what this movie's about, and it mentioned vampires. I was like, I had no idea there were vampires involved in this movie. I was like, okay, I need to pay attention.
Yeah, it's most of it is visual. Like,
Yeah.
we've been talking about a lot of plot stuff, but we figured
Mhm.
that out ourselves. They're not telling you.
And consistently throughout the movie, it's very visual and like
Yeah.
And vibes based.
vibes
Yeah.
based. It's like
It's
really well
atmospheric.
done. Yeah, it just feels like it'd be like an incredible movie to like watch on a VHS in like the late '80s. Like it just like had that kind of.
Yeah.
You know,
I
when
just
he
saw
has
that.
that little tiny TV that he sits really close to at one point, that's how you're
Yeah.
supposed to watch this movie.
Yes, yes.
Why was he
Not-
watching cartoons? What was going on?
Wanted to
Why
be
not?
returned to his. Yeah,
To-
there's probably some sort of meaning to that, but
I was
didn't
trying
look
to
it
figure
up.
that out. I was like, is it he's becoming old?
He's regaining
But
his
he-
youth
Yeah,
He's
he is
becoming
very-
young.
They
by
didn't have the-
watching
can't-
childhood cartoons.
Oh yeah, they had the whole progeria thing too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
with those images, and I was like, those images are not accurate, but okay.
They were not.
The other thing that is really interesting about this movie is the director. The director is Tony Scott.
Mhm.
You might know his brother, Ridley. Um, and yeah, there are three brothers. Tony has since passed away, but you might know some of his other films as well. This is only his second film ever. I don't know what the first one was. I'll look it up in a second.
Yeah, it was 12 years earlier. I know that.
Well, you know what else he's known for? Fucking Top Gun, bro.
Yeah.
Going
That's
from
so
this movie to Top
wild.
Gun.
Well, it's crazy because like this movie did not perform well, and so it's like fun, like you just like not many people get like a second chance at like directing,
Mhm.
but he goes on to make like one of the biggest movies of the '80s, which isn't as textually homosexual, but Top Gun, has that very
It's
like
also
It
homoerotic
very-
has the
the
undertone.
volleyball scene. Yeah, yes, the undertones.
It's in all the
Yeah.
articles that I read, they're like, "Oh, and he made another gay film, Top Gun." And I was like,
Another
I was
queer
like, yeah.
classic.
Exactly.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
Well, I think I read that Jerry Bruckheimer, the producer of Top Gun, saw this movie, The Hunger, and was like, "This is who we want
Yeah, bring that gay
Oh.
shit.
to,
Yes,
dir-
that's
to direct
crazy.
Top Gun."
What
He
did the
also
guy
did,
who
I
hired him for
believe-
Beverly Hills Cop 2?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They're like, "Oh my god,
What a
I think they could
well-rounded
bring
body of
that."
work.
Totally. True
He's a
Romance
star.
also.
Mhm.
Seriously.
There's a
no.
the Hunger TV show that they did at one point in the 90s that he directed 2
TV
episodes of as
show?
well. So I'd be curious to check that out. Yeah. I
And-
think
Based
it's
on
not
the
like
book?
any of the same characters.
Okay.
So I don't really know what it's pulling from other than I gleaned that it was like the same sort of homoerotic thriller vibes, just generally speaking. Of like lust and eternity and longevity and sex and danger and violence. But David Bowie hosted season 2, so you can see him in there to some degree as well. But it was IMDb says it's a horror anthology series where the hosts eccentrically introduce each of the steamy, erotic, and often supernatural
Ooh.
tales of power, sex, lust, and driving urges. So
I
it's
love
like
an
the
anthology.
themes. The themes are there rather than
Okay.
like a continuation of the story.
The themes.
The themes are theming. Additionally, he did Man on Fire,
Oh.
which is that movie
that
with
the-
Dakota Fanning
and Denzel
and
Washington.
Denzel Washington.
Yeah,
And Christopher Walken. I actually haven't seen that movie, to be so honest with you.
I don't think
Um,
I've seen it either.
Was Willem Dafoe just born? Is that why he's in it for 5 seconds?
Um,
Like that.
I think I read it was a
Chelsea, didn't he-
cameo.
Oh, was it like he was already famous and they're like, oh,
I
here's
think
Willem
so.
Dafoe.
But it was so
this
weird.
is like his. I looked at his IMDb. It's like he was in a 1980 movie called Heaven's Gate, uncredited. He was in a 1981 movie called The Loveless with a named character role. He was in a 1981 short, and then he
Yeah.
was in The Hunger as second
Oh.
He's
Boon
just-
Youth.
This is
He's
just his first
beginning.
role.
When
He's
was
so
he?
Did an
cute.
IMDb trivia. Director Tony Scott had to actively campaign for the casting of Willem Dafoe in a small part. So it's like the director knew him and was like advocating for him, I guess, but everybody else was kind of
Wow.
like, who gives a shit about this guy?
Well, it's an
That part was
important part.
just- I was like, wait, William Dafoe.
Willem? What are you doing here?
I love Willem.
Am I going
love
crazy?
Willem.
Is that William Dafoe?
I don't know. I love him at this time because he had that little like unibrow thing happening.
I love a
like
unibrow, you
that.
guys.
Me too. It can be tasteful.
Surprising common ground.
He is so European sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Unibrows bringing everything together.
Just like
beautifully said.
just kind of like a speedo. Know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
works
Ooh.
for me.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. This
Something
correlation.
erotic about a unibrow.
Something just erotic, salt of the earth. Also, just because every article I read talked about it, we have to talk about vampirism as an analogy for heroin and drug
Oh.
use and drug
Oh.
addiction. I was like, okay, yeah.
They
yeah,
really made
okay, yeah. They
Yeah,
literally
they really
made
made-
it look like a
Yeah.
fucking injection
Mhm.
site.
Yeah.
they had
Yeah,
Sarah
that was a
running
lot.
around like she was a junkie downtown. Which where is this?
Like,
Where was this?
There-
What city are you supposed to be in?
They're in New
No.
York, but they filmed primarily in London. So maybe that's part of the
Okay.
confusion.
Yeah, but I love Sarah. Like she had that like silver metallic like trench coat, just like running through the streets. I
it
was
was
like
so
yeah.
good.
Sweating.
Plus the
So
great hair.
sweating.
dramatic.
Yeah, she had. I loved her haircut. Yeah.
That was good.
I
Um,
love the haircut. I almost did that because the top of my head was really curly earlier
Oh.
today. And I was like, I want to wear the cunty hat.
You could have done a
Um,
costume change, just whipped off the hat.
No, there's a lot of hairspray in this shit right now. You don't want to
Okay.
see it. Underneath the hat, it's a mess.
But what
Um,
are there other movies that also portray vampires as heroin addicts?
There's like
Twilight?
Yeah.
yeah, my
own personal
My
brand
own
of
personal brand of heroin.
Oh yeah.
Don't know
Not
if you remember that
exactly
quote,
that,
Joe.
but like there's like the power of mysticism or a mystical power being an analogy for a drug addiction. I'm thinking of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Willow and her witch powers. And she gets like
Mhm.
addicted to the power and she's literally in like a fucking drug den type situation. Like they go real heavy handed with it there. Sometimes that shit pisses me off because I'm just like, let them be powerful and
Yeah.
let them enjoy their powers that they have that are magic and natural to them.
I think there's sort of room in the Lost Boys for it to read to some degree as like fun youths doing drugs and being bad boys, but it's hard to parse the vibe sometimes of what is like drugs and what is like
yeah.
vampires. But I mean, the blood work of it all leaves space for that. This movie,
Yeah.
it's a lot more on the nose, but
Totally.
The Lost Boys, another amazing soundtrack. I
Yeah.
also see a correlation.
Yes.
Vampire movies, amazing soundtracks. I think that's a requirement.
they have to have them.
They
It's
must.
a rule
to.
of law.
And I know we already touched on this, but it is crazy how not perfect, but like how appropriate a visualization of the AIDS crisis, like John's like insanely fast decline, like from a man in
Yeah.
his prime to someone on death's door, and like the liver spots and stuff like that. There's just a
Mhm.
lot of correlation to the AIDS crisis, and so it's crazy that that wasn't necessarily intentional. Like obviously it was known about a little bit by 83, but you'd be shocked by how late in the game people started actually doing
I would be
anything.
interested about the timeline of the AIDS crisis, especially in like the US. Because like wasn't at that point wasn't it already known? Like maybe not how you contract it, but that people were dying from
I think right around this time, it was like they were like there was maybe like 1,000 cases in the U.S.
Okay.
Here.
and it was like they're trying to get the government to like recognize it as an epidemic.
It said
This-
that the novel on which The Hunger was based was released in 1981, and that is the year that the CDC first published a written report on what would later be known as AIDS. So, like, that's the first even report on it. So,
And then
it
when did the
started
movie-
a little bit in the late 70s, and then it took a really long time for the government to do literally anything. You should watch,
I mean,
listen to,
didn't
or
Reagan
read, and
literally
the band
never-
plays on. He never
yeah.
said it.
Yeah, he never acknowledged it.
1983 was the year that they first had like a front page news story about it in the New York Times.
Yeah, so this would have been created before that, you know. Keep it
I
safe.
I wonder if like so this movie did not do well like financially, and like it's not the most like famous movie, like it wasn't like a really popular film in the 80s, and I wonder, is that right? I don't know, I'm just kind of
It's got
It
an
was definitely a
insane
cult classic that
following,
grew
Yeah.
over
Like,
time.
the
'Cause-
goths go fucking nuts for this shit.
okay.
Yeah.
But
I
even
think
like
so.
critically, well, I mean, we'll get to our I'll set up the scene for our ratings later, but it was not necessarily well received by critics.
Okay.
Fair.
Because yeah, I mean, I guess cult classics is when things are discovered after the fact, but I wonder if it just like had a slower burn, because I'm sure like once this came out on like VHS, the AIDS crisis was more in effect, and maybe it was like a hard movie for people to watch because it felt so real
On
to
the
what was
nose.
happening in real life. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'd be curious if there's any relation to that.
It is interesting because when you can watch it in hindsight with the 2020 perspective, not 2020 the year, but 2020 vision perspective of the AIDS crisis, it feels like it must have been in conversation with it. It is really hard to like wrap your head around how it wasn't. But it was just one of those things where they're kind of happening concurrently. And as the movie is coming out, the AIDS crisis is like starting to be really in the more forefront of things, but it wasn't involved in like the creation of
Okay.
the movie. It wasn't like meant to be commentary. It just is. You can see that in the movie once you see what it was happening in the world.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting how there could be coincidences like that, but it's powerful to watch now, you know. It was
It
happening
is.
right at the exact moment that it was happening in real life.
Mhm.
But I know we're getting closer to the end here, getting closer to our segments. Did we have a couple more topics we wanted to get to before that time, Chelsea? It seems like maybe you do.
I just want to say that I loved the rollerblading scene. And I thought that was like so fun and vibey.
loved
And then
that.
yeah, it's such like absolute the worst possible thing that he could say, that guy's like, you old fuck, like whatever he says to him, like that's the worst possible insult he could throw at him. And oh, stupid old fuck is what he calls him. And I also think, isn't it just absolutely a kick in the pants that when he is fully decaying and she's carrying his body up, John's body up, and then she puts him in the coffin, it's like, oh, by the way, also he peed his pants.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because he
I was
broke
like-
his back.
He peed his
I
pants,
thought
guys.
that was so
And he has to live
mean.
in
I
his
was like,
pee
are you
pants
kidding?
forever.
I didn't think about that.
The Lieutenant Allegriza stuff we also haven't really touched on at all because it's like so not really plot
It was really random.
relevant.
Why was
Yeah.
he in this movie?
I feel like that could have been like space for a sequel to some
Oh,
degree,
I forgot.
maybe.
I literally forgot. I was like, what are you
yeah.
talking about?
Because
But they're like, oh, by the way, the police are investigating Alice's death. But then he kind of just comes back at the end and they go, everybody's moved on. No one's left here. And I have to get back to my real estate clients upstairs. You're cool, right? And he just like looks down and sees one of the Polaroids that Alice has left behind. And it's like, wow, something happened here. But he'll never know what.
I will say, I want a house with its own personal crematorium in it.
Yeah.
Play.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
The vampires, they often have that.
I want a house with a bird attic.
Right?
Yeah.
So many
That's a
doves.
personal thing for me. It's so important to have a spooky aviary in your dead ex-lover mausoleum. It's
Den.
important.
It's necessary. So when you're carrying your dead lovers, you're screaming in slow motion, and the linens are flowing through the air. You
Flapping
need
in
those
the
Are
doves.
you
Yeah.
grieving if white doves aren't smacking you in the face?
I don't think you
also
are. Yeah.
Many sheer curtains smacking you in the face.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
crucial, and you gotta have a
Are
good fan up
you-
there to get the wind going.
We all
How are
should
they
have.
going to show you Haunted by Your Mistakes if they don't
Yeah.
have the doves being spooky at the end?
We all should have rented doves to release during in the background of our.
Well,
videos.
actually,
There it goes.
Oh my gosh.
Necrophilia.
It's a black dove.
I just
It's a
keep
goth dove.
Oh,
Oh,
I
there
think
we
that's
go.
this
good.
goth
Oh, yeah.
dove with me at all
sometimes known as a
times.
raven.
Exactly.
Like the
Sometimes
ravens.
it's a raven.
I just want to say
yeah.
Susan Sarandon is incredible. She was a knockout. She's a badass. I love when she's at dinner with her husband or boyfriend and she gets a steak to the table and he's like, "You're not even eating your steak." She's like, "I know, I ordered it, but I don't even want it." I forget what her line was.
That's
Like,
was
I
the
thought
most
I
bad-
wanted it.
Yeah,
Why
I
did
thought
you
it-
order it then? You already sent the clams back. And she was like, get off my back. Like, I thought that I wanted it.
She's weird one time, and he's like, "Go to the hospital."
And he is right, though, is the thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, it's too late. They
she's
can't do
ravenous, but
anything
she
about it.
can't eat. Because he wakes up and she's puking her guts out.
right.
Ugh.
Rough time for girly. Rough time. Okay, are we ready for our segments?
Our segmentos.
Let's go. How could this already incredibly gay movie be gayer?
Okay. At the beginning, when they take that couple home from the thing.
Switch.
Yeah, it should have been switched. It should have been girl on girl, boy with boy.
Couldn't agree more.
It's so
Couldn't agree more.
obvious. It's right
He
there.
has
Yeah.
girly at home. Come on.
Yeah. But also, I did really like the scene with David Bowie and that woman. That was
Oh,
a very
yeah.
sensual scene. So
I
Or here's the thing.
loved that.
They could
put
have
them
kept that
together
scene,
in the same room more.
or just added another scene, and it's like switched.
Mm.
So they're like, "Oh, look, we're here. Oh, look, we've switched. Oh, look, we're here again. Oh, look, we're all
Mhm.
together."
I know
mean,
that it
how
wouldn't
long-
have. Oh, keep going.
John's been along for a long time. Do we think that he's ever explored with the same sex? You know,
There was
For sure.
homoerotic vibes in that bathroom with the guy in the tank top or whatever.
Yeah.
Like as he's
Wow.
becoming old, and he sees him and he's thinking about killing him, and he's like,
I think all vampires are bisexual because if you live that long, like, what else are you gonna do? You know,
Yeah.
I agree.
why not?
With the exception of maybe Bella and Edward. The only one.
They're
I
Mormon.
don't know.
But in real life,
It was early days. It
No,
was
Stephanie
Natalie
Meyer
early
would not
days.
allow
And
that in
Alice.
her
Yeah,
now
book.
that they're married.
Well,
They have
Alice
a
for
special
sure.
relationship.
Yeah, now that they're married, they've established they can explore some more.
I forgot
And
about
also,
Alice. Yeah.
as we talked about on that episode, actually, or some episode, you know, if the Renesmee is predestination for Jacob because that egg was always inside of Bella's body, like that sperm was inside of Edward, so there's something for the two of them there.
Oh, I applaud this
Maybe.
logic.
Well, your sperm
makes
doesn't. Your
sense.
sperm like grows. It's not there all the
Yeah,
time.
your sperm isn't
you're
there your
right.
whole life.
Yeah, but
Never
his sperm has been
It
there
was
the
there
whole
at
time
one
he's been
point.
dead.
Well,
Well, okay,
that
I
is
I have
That's how
questions
Jacob
about
knows
that.
him. He's not generating new
That's
sperms
true.
now.
That is true.
It's- You're
How
right.
they
You're right
had-
because he can't grow more hair.
Yeah.
If you know about that, they can't grow more hair. With
What
this
is going
movie,
on right now?
did you know that? Did you know
No.
that?
I've
In
only seen it-
Twilight, they
I've only seen the
can't
first
grow
Twilight.
any more
That's not
hair
true.
than they
You've seen-
already
Oh.
have. They have the hair that they had when they died. That's it. They don't get more
Okay.
hair. So if
So
somebody
you're
ripped
saying-
out
so
all
you're-
their hair, they'd look like
They gotta wear
that
wigs.
fucking
to be
doll
beautiful
from
and bald.
Rugrats, Angelica. They look
But
like
how does
Angelica.
Edward having the same sperm that he
Angelica's not
died
the
with make
doll.
him
Cynthia's the
gay?
doll.
Cynthia, I'm so
No,
sorry.
no.
I'm so
It
sorry.
doesn't make
Yeah, that was an error on my part. It's
Make-
Cynthia the doll.
make up.
Sorry. I do apologize. I was proud I even remembered
Baby.
Angelica, to be so honest with you. Keep
Angelica
going,
Pickles,
Allison.
that's my queen.
I'm so sorry. Allison, you were saying something that had to do with hair and sperm.
Oh no, I wasn't. I was answering Joe's question.
Yeah, just
Very
very important
misconception.
question.
It wouldn't be Edward who would be gay. It would be Jacob, who is
Jacob.
bisexual because he is drawn to Renesmee because the egg was inside of Bella and the sperm was inside
of
of
Edward.
Edward the
He-
entire time. They knew one another.
Well,
Yes,
create a baby, you need sperm, so I guess everyone
but-
is technically gay.
As we've seen with Renesmee via imprinting.
Who is
when
Renesmee?
you-
Oh, that's
The baby.
Like, who the hell?
Horrible
Their
monster
child.
That is a
We
crazy.
can't explain all of Twilight to
There's
you. We
no
don't
time
have
for
enough
this.
time.
Renesmee? How do you?
That's
Edward,
her name.
Bella,
it's part
and
Renee, part
Renesmee?
Esme. Her
Joe,
her
you
mother
saw
and her
this
mother.
one.
Joe,
It's terrible. It's terrible.
We can't
It's-
get into this.
There's no explaining it because it's just awful.
Like we were saying about imprinting, when you're there for someone and whatever way they need for long enough, they have no choice but to love you. And so if Jacob is having this for Edward to some degree,
Okay.
eventually Edward has no choice but to return it.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
lassoing
I
the
see.
conversation and I'm taking the reins and I'm bringing it back to this fucking movie
Good call. Good
to
call.
say something not that smart. But all I was going to say is that I know it's already an hour 36 minutes. That's a beautiful amount of time for a movie. This wouldn't have driven the plot in any way, but I could have stood for one more scene with Bowie and Miriam doing a little kill squad thing at a sexy club. I could have seen them collab one more time just to have a little bit more young
Mhm.
Bowie on the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
He's gone
and
so fast.
he's gone
He
so
was.
Yeah.
fast.
I was like, wait, that's really the end of him in this movie? That's crazy.
I would have
know.
liked more Bowie.
I wonder if it was supposed to be like a marketing shock. Like, I wonder how they marketed this movie.
It's
If it was like a
like
David,
Scream.
like, yeah, exactly, or Psycho, where they
Yeah.
have,
Mhm.
where they like really like, because David Bowie's like on the poster, and you like think he's gonna be, but he gets killed off so soon. I was like, he can't be dead. Well, I guess he's not dead.
Not.
He's in a coffin.
Never, yeah.
In
He
the
just
attic.
is
The
Never
entire movie.
dead.
his pants corpse up in the attic the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay, more gay thoughts. What other gay things?
My gay notes that I put in here, well, part of it is just the conversation between them with like, is it a love song? I told you it's sung by two women. Well, it sounds like a love song. Then I guess it is. But I loved that bit of them. I just love how they handled it and how they did that. But then there's the conversation with Tom Haver, where he goes, "You just met her and she gives you a present," and she goes, "She's that kind of woman. She's European."
I love that.
Gay. She's
So
not
gay.
flirting with me. She's just European.
Yeah.
She's just European,
Yeah.
and that's how
Gay or
I feel there.
European is one of my
I-
favorite games to play ever.
Literally, my thought was the song from the Legally Blonde musical. And then, and also, I guess, just the dialogue from the original Legally Blonde movie. Is that part of
Yeah.
the movie as well, or just the musical? Anyway, just a note also where he's like, "You were there for 3.5 hours. You were talking for 3.5 hours," and it's like
That's what
they're
women do.
gay women. Yes, they were talking for 3.5 hours.
What else are they gonna
Um,
do?
Hello. So.
I
Those
also
are-
want to share my own gay experience watching the film as a nervous bisexual. I told Chelsea about this already, so you don't have to act shocked. I was watching the sex scene and I was like, whoa, that was crazy. I should rewind a little bit and watch that again for science, for the podcast, for science, for the podcast. And my hand was so shaky because I was like, whoa. I accidentally like cucked myself and hit the restart movie button because they have that. And it went all the way back to the beginning and I was like, no. That was a gay
Just
part
wanted
of
to
the
go
movie
back
for
like
me.
15
I
seconds.
just wanted
and then,
to
like
see
maybe
the nipple
15
part
more
again.
seconds,
Is
and then
that
like maybe
wrong?
15 more seconds.
Is there wrong to rewatch it that part just over and over and over? I don't think so.
For
If it's wrong,
science,
don't
I
wanna
did
be
rewatch
right.
that part just before this recording.
See,
Oh
I was
no,
like,
I
oh,
need to
science.
listen to the
need-
episode
you
horny.
know.
That's so
Yeah.
important.
I need to
Thank
know
you.
You're like, did they actually kiss or not? I must
what was
revisit
the
and
queer
see.
part of this
Actually,
film. I
women
should really
stab.
watch it again.
Women in
Yeah,
STEM.
like,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, seriously, it's important.
I think there was a
Um,
whole the lieutenant wasn't in this very much. I think there was a whole gay subplot with him that was cut out.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what happened.
I like that actor. I would have watched that.
Yeah.
One interesting thing, if I can find the quote really quickly, is they were kind of talking about it at one point, like, do we need to set up this like sexual turn for Sarah, that she's like being seduced by this woman or whatever? Do we need to like frankly discuss this in the movie in some way? And Susan Sarandon was basically just like, no, like, have you seen Catherine Deneuve? Like, there doesn't need to be anything other than what we see. Like, that alone is plenty.
No explanation, just Catherine Deneuve.
Yeah, he said you wouldn't have to be. No, they were gonna have her be drunk.
Oh,
to,
yeah.
to start this
Oh.
sexual scenario, and Susan Sarandon said, "quote You wouldn't have to get drunk to bed, Catherine Deneuve. I don't care what your sexual history to that point had been."
So true.
Iconic.
I
Okay.
don't know. I really love the way it's framed in this movie of like, it's not about what anyone's sexual orientation was. It really is just about this like connection that they're sharing. And it's just so like palpable and obvious to both of them that there is like a mutual curiosity or attraction here, that it's like, why would you dismiss it? Like, if you are, especially as a scientist, you know what I mean? It's like, it's, I can see for myself that it's here. I don't need to be like, well, but I'm not XYZ, or I haven't ever ABC'd before. It's just like,
Yeah.
no, like, I'm objectively feeling attraction and arousal, and she seems to be too. So let's
She's
have at it.
picking up what I'm putting down.
Are you
Let's
hitting
just-
on me?
Let's just see where
No,
it goes.
but
Maybe
if you
you're
want me to be
into
hitting
it.
on you, I guess I could be. But also, obviously, yes, she was.
She absolutely was.
Well, I hate to stop the gay train, but I'm going to by saying any more gay thoughts you'd like to share.
So many more gay thoughts.
All right,
I'm only sharing them all month.
She got one.
Erotic
I got one in.
thriller pride. There you go. Okay, it's time to ask the other age-old question: where would Matthew Lillard fit into this film? And again, I would love to give him a beautiful, pointless role, which is the lieutenant. I think he would be really great there.
Allegrezza.
Or as the guy who's not Willem Dafoe, who was
Yeah.
with Willem
Yeah.
Dafoe.
I vote for
Okay.
that.
Quick pause. Previous segment, Alice is gay. That's
Oh,
a
yeah,
little
for
lesbian.
Oh,
yeah,
she's
yeah,
gay.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
a little
also
lesbian.
that.
Do you meet her? That's a little lesbian.
Yeah.
lesbian, or like she's gonna have like a non-binary blossoming later in life.
I
Like,
could see that totally.
I see
Mhm.
that happening for them later on for sure.
Sorry,
Okay, back
Matthew
to
Lillard.
Matthew Lillard. Any other Matthew Lillard placements that you feel strongly about?
He could have
Yeah,
just been dancing around at the beginning.
Mm. He could have been the rollerblader.
Oh, that would have been good.
He also could have been the like young medical professional in the tank top who's getting eyed up by John in the bathroom, and then who's kind of being like, this old guy wants to fuck me? Like, what's happening? I think he could have slotted in nicely there.
I like when Sarah's running around downtown, she like runs up to a taxi cab and like someone else gets in the cab before her and she like slams the door dramatically.
She's like,
I'd have Matthew Lillard either be the passenger or the taxi driver.
Actually,
he's in
and
the
a quick little
cab and he
cameo.
just like, it drives by and he's just like, like
Matthew
Tongue
Lillard
out.
driving the semi truck that almost hit Sarah.
Yeah, that I like that.
I need
Yeah.
He
Yes.
could be Alice's dad who
Oh,
comes to pick her up.
Could be.
God. Could be him. Okay, I think those are some really great blink and you miss him placements for Matthew, which is where we usually put him. But that brings us to the dumb bitch of the movie, and that's kind of a complicated one for this because Miriam is likable in my opinion. We love a strong woman who
You can be a dumb bitch and be likable. I think she is
Yeah.
kind of a I'd
She's
like to
just an
nominate her,
eternal level
unfortunately.
girl. She's just an
Yeah.
undead lover girl.
She's both aware of her pattern and also completely unaware of her pattern. Like,
yeah, no, that's true.
she's just
She's got no
so in
self-awareness.
she's so in denial about everything that's going on because she
well,
so
she
can't
is
see
Egyptian,
beyond.
so it makes sense.
This is my denial.
Ah, that felt good. Keep going.
Yeah, I think she can't see beyond her own emotional experience, and she has the hindsight of 6,000 years within her. And so
Exactly.
when someone is upset and she sees that they're upset, like Sarah is with the state of things, she's just like, you're gonna get over it. They all everybody's a little upset. Everybody gets over it. Yes, it's very sad when you have to
And
pee your
you're
pants
gonna
and go
love
in the
me.
coffin forever.
We
But
hate the eternal pee pants, but it
look,
comes with the territory of
But it'll
loving
be
all
fine.
this.
you would live to maybe 80 without me, and I'm giving you an extra 220 years. And isn't there something to appreciate in there? Like, she just can only see the beautiful lover girl parts of it, because she willfully closes her eyes to the rest of it, and that's what makes her a dumb bitch.
I agree. I can't. You've convinced me, but I still like her.
You know who I like? I think his name is Charlie, the black guy who works with them, who has the cool green glasses.
I love the glasses.
He's
Glasses
sick.
so cool.
I like him.
Be so interesting if they had done anything with the science at
Yeah.
all.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
Cool.
apparently the book goes into like a lot of depth on like the
Yeah.
science elements of it.
Maybe I'll read it, but no, I won't because I can't listen to it. I'm already reading a children's book that's an actual book. So I'm reading
I'll record
Abarat.
an audiobook
Yeah.
for you. Don't worry, Monica.
Okay, thank you so
Wow.
much. I was honestly going on YouTube being like, did anybody just read it out loud? No, they didn't. That's weird. but
Monica,
they
you
didn't.
could do that. Actually, put it on YouTube. Say I'm reading this book out loud. That could be
Is that
our
illegal?
Patreon content. Then it would be.
I
legal.
wonder if
reading
it's
a
in the
book out
public
loud.
domain by now. Probably not. I think it has to be like 100
Oh,
years.
it's be like 100
Yeah, I
years.
think so.
Anyway, what were you gonna say?
For this section of being dumb, maybe I have a question that I'm worried might make me sound dumb, but
That's
what
okay.
like
this is a
when
safe
we
space.
when like us dying, is it like our cells or like what is the process?
Oh,
Like we're just like
yeah.
regenerating.
The idea of aging as a disease, which was brought up in this,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you could like cure. Yeah, it's just like the cells stop regenerating new cells, so they stop fixing the issues when
And
they
Because
as
there's
we-
start to
that
break
saying
down.
about like every 7 years, all of the cells in your body have been like fully
Replace.
replenished basically by then. They're all new.
Brand new person.
Okay. But then like the process of aging, like the cells just get older each time they
There's also something to do with what they're called, but they're called telmerides, or it's some kind of. You have a certain amount of them, and they're a certain length, and then they eventually start to shorten. And once they shorten, you're aging. Something to do with cells. I don't know.
We're
Sounds
never
like Allison
supposed to
knows
know
more about
this.
this than me. So that's all. I gave you everything right there.
So is there
And
Okay.
process?
continue.
Okay, you know like how people can have like
Telomeres.
Yeah,
genetic
that's it.
telomeres. You know how people can have
Oh,
like genetic yeah. Oh yeah. Telomeres.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
those
Telomeres.
things.
telomeres.
As we
Keep
were
going,
I'm
saying.
sorry.
Science
Is it
corner.
is it possible someone could be born that like doesn't have like they age slower possibly or so, you know?
Like
I
they're
mean, we
Benjamin
all-
Buttoning.
Exactly. Reverse
like that.
staging.
That
Well, that's what
documentary,
I was
Benjamin
100%
Button.
Yeah.
thinking about when she was like introducing that progeria disease. I was thinking about Benjamin Button.
I mean, there's the guy who's trying to like replenishing his blood with his son's blood to try to live
Well,
forever.
he
like,
looks way older.
yeah.
Scary.
It's
There's
not working.
also-
Creepy.
There's also the people ruled by Saturn that just get hotter as they get older. If you're into astrology.
Ooh. Oh, I hope to
Um,
do that. Some of them.
Yeah, Joe. Did you think about that?
Darn.
Yeah,
I
Joe,
think there
sorry.
are people that like age slower than others, and I think you can like look around and see like. I mean, I think it's very hard to parse sometimes because so much of it is also environmental. So it's like what is strictly genetic and what is, you're smoking, you're out in the sun, you drink alcohol, you're stressed, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think some people definitely seem to, in the same way that some people have better metabolisms than others.
Mm,
Yeah,
okay.
totally. I won't have us tell you more false information about the aging process, though. Dumb bitch is definitely Miriam. We need to move on to our knives out of 5. So Chelsea, what did they say? I know it's not that nice.
Yeah, on IMDb, this movie has a 6.6 out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, critics gave it 58%, which is rotten. It has 66%, which is fresh from audiences. But a lot of the critical complaints just really seem to be like, it's got style, but no substance. And I kind of just like disagree. I think a lot of the substance was overlooked because the lesbian sex scene kind of allowed it to be perceived as just a more salacious film than it was. And I think the fact that he was like a music video director and he did like commercials and stuff before this allowed people to kind of just like dismiss it to a degree. And I think the fact that it has withstood the test of time and grew a cult following, just kind of speaks to those numbers, just reflecting more of its the way it was initially received by audiences and critics. But there is like a little, not like critical acclaim necessarily. But at the 1984 Saturn Awards, it was nominated for Best Costumes and Best Makeup, and it was supposed to be nominated for Best Makeup at the Oscars that year. Because as we talked about on our American Werewolf in London episode in January, they had like just started that category. But it was the only movie that was nominated for Best Makeup that year at the Oscars. So instead of saying, yay, it wins, they went, oh, well, there's no competition. So I guess we just won't have that award that year. We're just
Fuck
not
off.
going to do
What?
it. Yeah.
Wrong, in my
Awful.
opinion, wrong.
A proposal to issue a special award was denied by the Academy's Board of Governors, is what it said on IMDb trivia. So,
Dicks.
yeah.
They're just scared of the booby in the mouth.
For all that wonderful makeup illusions.
Mm-hmm. The makeup artist I saw on IMDb trivia, makeup artist Anthony Clave, I don't know. He was famous within the fashion world for his work in Italian Vogue and was brought onto the project after he was introduced to the director by Milena Canonero, who did the costuming. And she just like took her work really seriously as well. And there's like one moment in the film where David Bowie has like a handkerchief or whatever, and she couldn't source a material that she liked in London, and so she like literally on her own time like went to Rome to look for a fabric that was more appropriate. And maybe that was when she was rubbing elbows with him. But the makeup and the costuming was really what was recognized at the time for having any level of prestige. And I think this movie's like cultural staying power and recognition beyond that really just came later. That said,
amazing.
what did you guys think?
Yeah, you guys want to go first?
We do knives out of 5s here, but you can
You don't
parse
have to
that
go first if you don't want
as
to.
specifically to the decimal point or whatever as you like.
I'd give it like a 3 out of 5. I think that it was like really like visually interesting, and I think it definitely is in a state of style over substance. Even though it has amazing style, I also think it has a lot of substance to it. I just wonder I don't know if I'll like revisit it as often, but like I appreciate it as a part of like of horror cinema and American cinema. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
4. And I'm gonna say it didn't get 5 for me because I really did not like seeing that monkeys had bashed in. I really didn't
Sure.
like that.
That really
And
upset you. I'm so
that's
sorry.
that's a big deduction for me.
Mhm.
Otherwise, though, I liked it.
I also want to give this a 4 because one, I had such a good time watching it. It was a little slow. Like the pace was a little slow. It was a little boring, but I also didn't care because I was like having a good time. And the ending needed to be a little different. Just
Yeah.
like a little different. Like maybe it was like and Sarah has now dedicated her life's work to figuring out how to, stop the
Well,
process or something.
She did give all the money from Miriam's 6,000 years to the research she was doing on
Exactly.
gender
And here's the thing.
or whatever.
If she can learn
Gerontology.
how her companions cannot age forever, she can also have sexy little boyfriend, sexy little girlfriend, all she wants.
That's
But it would
true,
just be bad companion partnership to know that they're gonna die and you're gonna have to keep them in a box.
Fucked up.
Yeah, I was like, is Miriam in a box in her attic now? Does she
She
have
was.
Miriam
Yeah,
up there?
she is.
She's
She
in
was-
a box
she was
in a
calling
cage.
for her.
Yeah. She was saying Sarah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I like the ending in part. Her in London with her girlfriend and her boyfriend. I love the vibes of that, but in terms of how it fits in with the story, it's kind of like undercuts the sacrifice that she was willing to make and the lengths that they were going to. And now it's like, is she restarting the cycle? What's going on over there? But I did like all of the skeletons. They're so locked in their coffins, but now they
Legally.
have this opportunity to try and claim some kind of revenge, and I liked that. But I
Why
just
were
thought it
they?
was-
Why were they able
Uh-huh.
to reclaim? Why were they able to get revenge? Like, what changed?
They unionized.
Oh, okay.
The power of the people.
Yeah, John came in and he was like, you know what, guys? I just got here, but this is not right. And we should rise up.
Mhm. Something really weird is happening down there, you guys.
I got pee in my pants. I want it
Yeah.
out.
She
That
didn't
was
even
the
change
final
my
straw.
pants. She just left me in these. It's like
They
kind
all
of
saw that.
fucked
They're like,
up.
the
Inhumane
pants thing.
death condition.
Not
God.
respectful.
fucked.
I don't.
Very
You should
wrong.
stand up to her. And then he did, and then they all were so inspired by that they did too.
And that's in the book.
And
Do you think that?
that's the last page of the book.
I mean, Sarah, like trying to kill herself. Do you think that was like a stroke of ego, a strike to Miriam's ego, and kind of like weakened her abilities to control her previous lovers, and that's why they were kind of able to
Yeah.
rise up? Something like that.
I think that also
That's good.
shocked her so much because she's like cannot be alone. That's so
Mhm.
clear that she is insecure in that way where she cannot be lonely, and so
Okay.
she's probably freaked
Ooh.
out. Just that seems like
Yeah.
a character flaw of hers.
Or maybe
because
it's
she
like
is
when-
the immortal lover girl after all, so she needs that bae by her side.
Yeah, like maybe when the companion of choice pushes back and says no, then the others, it's like they're all speaking with one voice.
They're all connected.
Yeah,
If they're
I
all
like
part of
that.
her, then they can be part of each other to a degree as well.
I thought it was really confusing also because it seemed like they killed Miriam, which made no fucking sense that her falling 5 flights of stairs would kill her. Sorry. I mean,
And
I
that
know
she
it
would,
sounds
her
dumb in
skull
the
would
aggregate,
decay to dust again.
that she would turn old from falling down all the stairs. Like, okay, it looked cool for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I thought it was one of those like vampire horde things where like if you killed the one who made the vampires,
Yeah.
then
Sire.
all of its
Mhm.
the sire, thank you. Then all of its little babies die because all like half those fucking corpse people like started to disintegrate and seemed like they're
Mhm.
finally at rest. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Like I'm okay with that. Like I don't love how it looked. Oh, I did love how it looked, but like when I think about it too, I love how it looked when I
Yeah.
think about it with my smart brain. I'm like, that was dumb. But then fucking
Why they
Sarah's
need
like,
to-
I'm out here vibing with my girlfriend and my boyfriend, giving them soft little kissies and looking out
Mm.
onto the off into the distance from my balcony. I'm like, well, that fucks that idea.
Yes.
No idea, no clue. Sorry,
Yeah.
it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
I
It's just
choose
for the sequel.
to engage with the ending of this movie by accepting the parts that I do like and just vibing out with the parts that I don't care for as much. And again, I think it is just like studio interference that they didn't really think through, or maybe they thought if we do a sequel, we'll have a chance to explain whatever that was then. But I don't know. I really liked this movie. I really like how vibes it is. I think it would be a great we always talk about like movies that you can put on the TV during a party kind of thing. I think this would be a
Yeah.
great one to have like in the background in that sense. It's just like a beautiful visuals to have around. But I thought like the tenderness of I loved the connection between Catherine Deneuve's character and Susan Sarandon's character and the way that they like explored that love scene before it turned bad. I just really like that. So I'm gonna give this movie like a 4.35.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it like maybe almost no. I'm gonna give it a 4.4. I'm just gonna go a little bit higher than Chelsea. No, I'm
guys are
kidding.
so
I'm sorry.
Oh my
Okay.
God, we're in competition.
Well, there's a lot of we are very generous scorers a lot of the time.
Yeah, I
At
want to know
least
what-
Chelsea and I
what
are.
movie do you give a 5 out of 5? What movie do you give it a 3 out of 5? What movie
Oh,
do you give
yeah.
it a 1 out of 5?
I gave Mandy a 5 out of 5 last week. So there you
Okay.
go.
I haven't seen Mandy.
I gave Scream 3 a 6 out of 5. So
I
Sometimes
Scream
you
3 is
feel
my
love.
favorite Scream. I love Scream
Joe,
3.
you're in
That's
good
why you
company.
fit in
Joe.
here. That's why you fit in here. But
We
anyway,
knew we liked you.
I just really love this movie. Been told that I would love it for years, and well, my friends know me very well. So thank you, everyone who's told me to watch this. It was honestly like a visual feast, and I'm so glad I rewatched it again today because I started it last night. Very sleepy after Memorial Day weekend. And so I was definitely in and out of consciousness. I did not realize in the beginning, and it's just like you gotta be like in rapt attention at that beginning because there's
Yeah.
just so much being thrown at you. You learn so much in such a short period of time. It is the definition of cunty. It's incredible. I don't know. I loved the editing. I loved the music. I love that they used that like classical music song that really like has that huge crescendo when they had the David Bowie marriage scene with Miriam, John and Miriam's marriage. I loved that moment. I loved how the music, that song that she was playing on the piano during the seduction scene turned into like that operatic version of it as they're actually doing the deed. I just thought it was stunning. It was incredible. It was beautiful. And I don't always need things to make sense. I was mad when I found out there was a book and there was an option for it to make sense, honestly. If it had just been what it was, would have been like, whatever, it's fine. But now I have to find the facts. Chelsea, you have the floor.
I have something to say. The podcast Horror Queers talked about this movie for a Bloody Disgusting article. And they said that song Lakme, the flower duet from Lakme, which is the lesbian love song in this movie, it's also used in a lesbian underwater ballet sequence in Piranha 3D.
Whoa.
Wow.
Good.
Is-
Yes. Of course.
How does the
Favorite
song
cut.
go? How does the song go?
I'm not gonna sing an opera song to
I
you.
don't know what to tell you.
Like, imagine it's the sound that comes to your mind when you think of Catherine Deneuve sucking on Susan Sarandon's boob. That's the sound.
Oh, that song.
That song. You know, you're hearing it right now.
The boob song.
The boob
The
song.
boob song.
That's how
Please
it's known
play
in
the classical
many-
boob song that I love so
Mhm.
much.
It's so gorgeous.
Siri.
Please don't ask us to sing opera on the pod. We'll do it, and it'll break
It'll
the
be
internet.
so bad. We'll
People
become
will
too
lose their
famous.
hearing.
We can't live like that.
Anyway, well, that is The Hunger, and to answer the question that nobody asked me, I am hungering for more, and I will be watching it again and again. I'm actually gonna watch it with Adam tonight, so can't stop, won't stop. But before we move on to what we'll be doing for future installations of Homoerotic Thriller Pride, we have to say thank you so much, Queer Cinema Catchup, for meeting up with us today on the internet and having such a great intellectual conversation with us about sexy, sexy 80s vampires. Tell us again all about yourselves and where we can find you and what's coming up next for y'all.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for
Sounds
having us. We
wonderful.
had a blast just like we did when you came over to our pod. Joe and I host Queer Cinema Catchup, which is a podcast that talks all things movies, TV, and sometimes other things through a queer lens. You could find us on basically wherever you could find a podcast: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and on YouTube as well. And this week we have a, in my opinion, queer classic coming. We'll be discussing the amazing early 2000s film Stick It.
Yes.
So please, if you like me,
Wish I had a
we're
bra
obsessed
strap I
with that.
could pull out.
Yeah.
I
You
love
know,
the
I
snap.
kind of do.
Snap it.
Feminine power, queer roots, etc. Please come
Wow.
listen.
Iconic.
Joe, anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, we just had a lot of fun today, and
Yeah.
we cannot wait to have you back on our channel once
Yes,
again.
Yay!
First
Collabs
ticket, take
for
Tuesday.
100%.
Until, one of us ages rapidly all in one day and dies. And pees our
Not
pants
me.
and has to go in the hole. It has to go in the coffin in the attic with the birds.
With their pee pants.
And next week, we are going for a little drive. Who knows? We might crash the car.
Or something.
I don't know what happens in the movie, okay? So don't spoil it.
That's not a spoiler. Don't worry. But
That's not a spoiler.
we are going to be watching Mulholland Drive.
Woo!
Yay!
Great
I went so
choice.
well covering a movie that we didn't know very well this week. I think let's keep it up.
Maybe it's a
Exactly.
theme within a theme.
Maybe it's a theme within a theme.
But yeah, well,
And like
it's
I was saying to Monica, like I want to know what Chaperone is talking about in her song. So
Does she reference
Yeah.
Mulholland Drive? The
oh my
movie?
god, like that one sex scene in Mulholland Drive. I don't know what.
is that the tune?
That was bad. I was like,
Was that the
I think
opera
it's
song
in-
from The Hunger?
Yeah,
Or was it in
that's-
Casual
Thank you. Hold on. No,
or Naked in Manhattan?
touch
Maybe.
me, baby. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's Naked in
Yeah.
Manhattan. Yeah. I wonder what scene she's referring to.
Hold on. I'm looking.
That
for
one
it.
sex scene that's in Mulholland Drive, but she says, let's make it cinematic, which is really the.
Let's make
So there's
it
a sex scene that's
cinematic, like that
cinematic,
one sex scene in
which
Mulholland
I have to
Drive.
assume
I
means it
wanna know,
qualifies
baby,
nicely
What is it like? Yeah.
for
That
Homoerotic
was
Thriller
the tune
Pride.
almost
Yeah.
earlier.
No, that was beautiful.
That last time it was pretty bad, but it was the tune more. Anyway,
I
we're
haven't
gonna-
seen it in a while, so I'm interested to see what watching it as an adult versus watching it as a teenager.
I've never seen
so
it.
I'm excited. It's gonna be.
I tried
great.
to watch it recently, but it was not streaming free, and I went, I guess I'll move on for today.
Well,
It's-
I'm excited to continue being homoerotically thrilled about doing this podcast
Mhm.
with you all. Pride.
Pride.
Had to say all the words. But anyway, thank you again, Queer Cinema Catchup, for joining us. We love
Of
you so
course,
much.
thank
You're
you.
amazing.
Ew.
How
love you
can they?
too.
What's your handle again? Because I'm about to do mine, so you do yours.
Joe, what is our handle? At Queer Cinema Catchup?
Yeah, except you made our Instagram is at queer_cinema_catchup.
That's because it's not available at Queer Cinema Catchup.
Who
That
is the
was
other
why.
queer cinema catchup?
I don't know.
Reveal
it's-
yourself.
Fight!
Yeah,
Fight!
yeah.
So they're at queer_cinema_catchup.
For Instagram
it's
and then
for
regular for
Instagram.
the other one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We'll also
But
tag them in
we'll
all
have
of our
everything
stuff.
linked in our reference notes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just look right below and you'll see it. But anyway, you can also follow us. We're at Spooky Tuesday, at Spooky_Tuesday. So sorry. We also have an underscore on pretty much everything.
Who's
except
the
for
other Spooky
Facebook.
Tuesday? I gotta look these
It's just
people
some guy.
Yeah.
There is a
Ugh.
band called Spooky Tuesday, or had that
Yeah,
a
but they
self-titled
disbanded,
album.
like,
Oh.
1,000 years ago, and that's not who has that.
Oh.
It's just someone who likes spooky things.
You should
I looked this up.
negotiate.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're also at Spooky Tuesday Pod on Facebook and Tumblr. You can also catch us on our website, spookytuesdaypod.com, one-stop shop for everything about us, including lots of hot, sexy pictures. Also, we have a Patreon. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. You can find a link to it there. Join our cult. And also, we are on YouTube. And today, you're graced with not only two beautiful guests, but two Catherine Deneuves. It is
Whoa.
unbelievable, and also a natural blonde. So almost 3 Catherine Deneuve.
Basically 3 Catherine Deneuve.
Basically 3. It's a huge day to be on our YouTube channel. So subscribe. And that's it. So at the end of the day, I have to say thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye, Spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Haidt, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Great18. That's GR818_. And our podcast art is by Ryan Brom, who you can follow on Instagram at Ryan Brom Art. That's RyanBrommArt. Learn more about Spooky Tuesday at spookytuesdaypod.com and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday.